tell you what's there.
Usually in the library.
Welcome to the August 26, 2015 Monomoy Regional School Committee meeting. We will call the meeting to order at 7:06. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 8th. Yes.
We have discussion if we have to make a motion first.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move to approve the minutes of July 8th.
All right, second that.
Okay.
Any discussions or questions?
Yes, I'd like to have the minutes reflect that the teacher, the former teacher that talked about math, spoke about online math, and in addition to the things it says in there, that math size, classes, and struggling students or something, that there was discussion about online math and that much discussion ensued. Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? So voted. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to recognitions.
Just three things. First of all, I just want to thank Carla and Tony and crew for the new teacher orientation that happened today. And usually new teacher orientation might be a group roughly this, the size sitting at the table today, rather than 27 new teachers in the library, and it was great. It was a chance, I think, for all of us to sort of test our memories on. It's like, okay, can we remember the names of these people that we've been hiring for the last several months? But an absolutely fabulous group of new hires that we're here today and starting their Monomoy journey. So thank you. I also want to just give Bill the floor to have him thank people that will be involved in an upcoming orientation on his end as well.
We've got a first-time 8th grade orientation coming up this year as part of our 6-point plan to introduce our new students and incoming 8th graders to our high school. Started back last year with myself and the director of guidance, Rick Gifford, going down to the middle school and personally introducing ourselves to the 7th graders, getting them excited, giving them a slideshow of all the cool things going on at the school, and going over the scheduling process, and then a visit last spring to a step-up day where our students at the high school ran the whole day, and we really had a lot of fun there so the kids could come over and see the school in session. And fast forward to September 1st, we wanted to give the students, the new students, anybody new to the district, 8 through 12, and high school students, the opportunity to come in, see the school, get their locker combinations, go on a scavenger hunt, find their classes and where their schedules are so they feel comfortable when all the kids are there day one. It's completely optional. We have little surprises for them. We've got our upperclassmen coming in to help with that as well. So I want to thank all the students that are coming in to volunteer their time. The 8th grade teams, we're doing it during the day because all our teachers will be back. It's their time to work on their classrooms and get ready for the year, and predominantly volunteering their time to do this. At the next meeting I'll have more specifics with names after the fact, but right now we're still collecting volunteers, but there have been a number of parents that have stepped up, students, community members, and who we're going to meet tonight, our new assistant principal, Mr. Martin, is kind of orchestrating this and has had a huge hand in kind of organizing this and running this. We're very confident it's going to be a great day for us, and we'll have more to report in specifics on the next meeting.
Bill, while you're there, why don't you introduce Mike?
Perfect, good segue. I'm very pleased to have the additional administrator this year. I sent Scott a lot of the data last year on school sizes are our size with 600 plus and administrators and all the districts around, and including the state. And the average is probably one assistant principal per 300 or 400 kids. So we were a little short. Jeannie Girolamo did an unbelievable job, and she's just a superstar to handle close to 700 students and one assistant under the circumstances last year. So we're fortunate enough to have that new position, and I think we did it in a very smart way, gathering some input from all our stakeholders that the new assistant principal is going to focus, and a big theme you see running through here is that our transition, our 8th to 9th graders coming into our building, really focusing on their needs, because it's a big year and research will show you if they don't succeed that year, they probably won't succeed in high school. So we're going to guarantee that they don't fail. And part of that is having an administrator overseeing those group of students, working with them, working with the teams of teachers, and kind of keeping the glue there with that group, and then all the other administrative things. So we had a very comprehensive search, which involved community members, students, teachers, parents, and we interviewed, I think, close to 12 individuals. We had, I think, 20 or plus applicants, all qualified, including sitting principals or former principals, assistant principals, and then those with little or no experience. And just a little summary, I knew Mike back in Plymouth. He's from Plymouth. He taught both my children, who one's graduated high school and one's a junior now. They were both, he was both their favorite teacher. To this day, he still is. Had a huge impact on both their lives. So when he applied, it was exciting to see. I did not tell the search committee I knew Mike. I wanted to see what they thought of him without my influence. I was on that committee. He was the last one we interviewed, and it was unanimous across the board. He impressed everybody in that room, and then I shared with them that I knew him and that he was the right guy. I already knew that coming in. In fact, I hired him as an athletic director. I was so impressed after he had my students in his 8th grade history classes that I hired him as my girls' tennis coach. He's quite a tennis player. And at the time, the girls' tennis program at Plymouth North was in shambles and was almost being ready to be dismissed. 5 or 6 athletes every year, not caring too much. Brought him in, the numbers jumped up to 20 to 25, and we had so many kids trying off the team. He won 2 or 3 league championships, and the kids were having fun. He just has an impact on people and kids. He loves what he does. He's really a huge asset, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our team. So I just wanted to introduce him, and he can say hi and say a few words. Mike Martin.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, school committee, for allowing me the opportunity. Just a little bit about my background. I've been in education for the last 20 years. Just last year, a very exciting time for me, I actually became an American citizen. So I grew up in Scotland. I lived there for my first 20 years of my life. My family still resides there. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I go back pretty much every Christmas to see my mom. She's still there. She's a big part of the reason I kind of got into education. So I've been in education really in public schools in Plymouth as an 8th grade teacher, and also in the outdoor education field at a place called Camp Borndale in South Plymouth, where a lot of public schools would come in and private schools would come in and spend some time overnight, social emotional team building, stuff like that. So I'm very excited to be here. This is from what I understand and from what I've seen the first couple of weeks that I've been here, a great district. Everybody has been very helpful towards me. It's kind of overwhelming a little. We're talking about new schedules and new people and new rooms and new buildings, and for people that have lived it last year, they have the knowledge. I'm still kind of in this theoretical phase right now. So I can't wait for the kids to get here. I can't wait for the teachers to get here, and I can't wait to start working at Monomoy. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And then also, hot off the presses, we just have something for Joan to sort of share and at least recognize some of the unsung folks that have been behind this effort.
I want to give recognition to the crisis team and also the Tower Foundation for the culmination of a project. Over the last 2 years, representatives from both towns, EMS, the police, the fire department, and various fire and safety representatives, along with school administrators and teachers, have worked on the crisis team to develop kind of combining what the 2 towns had done in the past, best practices, and best resources in regards of what to do during a crisis. So I actually have to, we had finished this project at the end of last year, which is a resource manual for all teachers and administrators on what to do if something happens in the district. So I have to update this because we have some new teachers and some new, there'll be new crisis team members. But the other piece that happened as the culmination of a 2-year project was that the committee put together a flip chart, which is kind of a fingertip resource manual that will be in every classroom and common space area. I'll pass this around afterwards. And it goes kind of, it's a fingertip resource, you know, what to do in a fire and explosion, what to do with bomb threat, assault, armed suspect in the building. People are not going to read this if there's a crisis, but this will be hanging in every classroom, and people, or if there's a sub in the classroom, they'll know exactly what to do. There's emergency phone numbers listed here, and then in the middle of this manual, there'll be a building map and a class roster for every classroom, so that people, if they walk into the classroom, and then if there's an emergency, they'll be able to, be able to signal to people that they need help, or in the case of a lockdown, they'll be able to signal without giving away, or making sure and trying to ensure people's safety. This was funded by the Tower Grant, which is a grant that's school districts and teachers, individual teachers can apply for monies to this foundation. It's a family that specifically provides grant monies to Barnstable and Dukes County, and I believe there's a county on the North Shore, maybe Essex, not sure, and also a county in New York. I believe the Tower family were summer residents on Cape Cod and continue. Most of their emphasis is on mental health, school safety, and the area of disabilities. That many of our teachers over the years have had the benefit if they needed something for their classroom, or even families. Also, many of our families with disabilities have been the recipients of the Tower Foundation money. So they actually funded, and we just literally got these in today, so I'll pass this around for you to look at. So, Sharon.
I would like to request to have a copy of each of those. It takes me a long time, it takes me a while to go over it. I think this is absolutely fabulous. It's been a priority of mine for several years.
We can make a copy of that, of the particular manual you're looking for.
The large one and this.
Okay. As soon as we update this with everybody's, the crisis team, we will get a copy to you.
Okay, thank you.
And we're going to send this out electronically. Some of our crisis team members are no longer with us, so we're going to update that.
I would like to have a copy.
Okay. You're welcome. Yeah.
But this was really a collaboration of a lot of different community
Absolutely.
partners. So it was not just the school side, and I know Joan's assistance has put a lot of time on it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize. Tony and Kathleen have been invaluable in helping us pull this together, so thank you also. Questions?
Sure,
Again.
Just a follow-up question, but I have seen and very impressed with the project. The thought strikes me, if we have regular substitutes K through 12, and I know they are not staff that you pay to come in prior to being called in to cover a class, but I wonder if there's a way in which they could become familiar with this prior to walking into 7th grade room 114 and seeing it hanging there.
One of the things we might be able to do, because Kate Brewster puts together, I think that's a great idea, Mr. Russell. We could at least make photocopies of the content of what's in the manual and give them to, put it in a substitute packet. I think, as we get new applicants in, I think that's a good idea. The other thing about this particular manual is their pockets. We actually, I have to give credit to both Barnstable Public Schools and Plymouth Public Schools there's been a lot of dialogue about this over the years, I know in both towns, and we actually borrowed samples from both those places, and Barnstable had the idea, and we used the company that they used, where those are actually plastic pockets, so if the procedure or protocol changes, you can just have it reprinted, and there's some extra pockets in there that if we have to add something to our crisis protocols, that we're able to do that. The company was wonderful to work with. It's a company out in the Midwest. So.
Thinking about this on a more individual basis, like a classroom teacher that might have children or a child in the classroom that needs an EpiPen or something particular, would this be a place, or where would the place be for that, particularly like Carrie said, if there was planning for a substitute?
The nurse actually is responsible for getting that information out, and I would imagine, I'm going to teach her how to substitute packets, and if there were particular things that, respecting confidentiality, et cetera, but if there were particular things that the classroom teacher would be responsible for making sure that that was conveyed. Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense. It's just, if the teacher can't get in to leave any update on something with the, I'm thinking that if they had it prepared ahead for a substitute, like sometimes teachers are too sick, they can't convey anything. So whatever plans they have, if it was with that, or if the school nurse came down, I'm just not sure, but this is the most important because this conveys stuff for the whole school. It just made me consider, what about individual?
But I believe, and principals can answer this better, each teacher is responsible for sub-packets and leaving information in buildings, in their classrooms, in the event that they're going to be out. Is that
and with the HEPA regulations, we've got to be careful that not too much information is made open to everybody. So when there's a fragile or specific case, and the nurse and the teachers have been working together to support that student, in the absence of that teacher, the administration knows that that teacher's out. The first thing we know is we put the list of who the subs are, and the nurse 90% of the time, or the administrator will be checking in to make sure that the substitute is versed with what they need to do without having all the information.
And just again, to speak to, I can't say enough about the members of the crisis team and how hard they worked regarding this. And quite frankly, the communication between all of these individuals is one of the reasons why the incident at the middle school last year went so smoothly. And actually, after that incident, the crisis team got together and we debriefed, talked about what worked, what didn't work, what we should do, and do we need to add people to the crisis team? There's actually 2 tiers in the event that there was an incident. There's the primary tier 1 of the crisis team, and then tier 2, in the event there was a larger incident or that there were activities that had to happen as a follow-up to a particular incident. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also in your packets are three donations to the school to make you be aware of. The first, we received a donation from the Westgate Foundation. It's a colorized framed chart of Monomoy, which will be hung at the high school. We also have a donation from, I don't know if this is the same thing, but from Alfred Friendly, or Mrs. Alfred Friendly, who was donated, is the donor of the framed chart of Monomoy Point. And then we have a letter there that we have sent out to the Harwich Cranberry Arts and Music Festival for a donation of $2,000 towards the concession stand. So that, in addition to the $10,000 from the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, has us slowly moving towards being able to afford the building materials to get the concession stand moved from a slab up. It won't be ready for the beginning of the sports season this year, but that hopefully by spring we'll have raised enough money to, to see that, that last piece of the Monomoy Regional High School construction project come to fruition.
How much are we looking for before we can start that?
I think we need to get enough funds to get the full envelope of the building put in place, but probably all in, it's probably close to to $80,000 worth of materials. And keep in mind that is still with community members who are skilled in the trades, particularly electricians and plumbers, helping to get the project finished as well. So it's truly going to be a community build, but it's also one that that we need the raw materials first.
And just as sometimes the term concession stand excludes the thought that it's also going to be public bathrooms for all the athletic events outside. So
Yeah.
besides being able to buy nachos.
And because of the proximity for White House Field, there's a good chance that there'll also be able to be facilities for White House as well.
Okay.
That's it for recognitions.
Move on to reports and discussions. First on the agenda is the high school 2015-16 handbook.
Thank you. In your packet, you should have received a one-page memo which highlighted any of the changes, and that is what I'm going to go over with you. But just to back up a little bit, last year was the first year we had one combined handbook for the opening of Monomoy High School. The year before that, we had a Harwich handbook, we had a Chatham handbook, and that summer, we underwent major review and revision of those two handbooks to combine that into one. So we've just completed our first year operating under the first Monomoy High School handbook. The thought is we are going to continue to live under this handbook and the policies and the procedures for another year to form more of an opinion on what's working, what's not, what needs to be tweaked. Obviously, if there was anything that was glaring that needed to be changed, we would change. So this year, the modifications are minor. In terms of the health facilities, the nurse's office, the content is the same. However, the nurse went through that and she found that medication was addressed in a number of paragraphs throughout the document, and she thought it would be much more readable and much clearer if she could extract that, put it into one section under the health facilities, and title it medication, and everything you need to know about medication would be there at a glance, easy to pick out. So that was one of the modifications. We also added in a phrase about items that are not allowed, such as nutritional, dietary aids, and supplements. Previously, that statement had been in the handbook. And when we combined both handbooks, we were also trying to make things a little less wordy. So we had taken that out and we replaced it with over-the-counter and prescription medications are not allowed. So we thought over-the-counter medications would cover everything, but it really didn't. We had a minor issue last school year with some nutritional supplements that students were carrying. So we wanted to make it crystal clear that that is not allowed. So we're putting that sentence back into the handbook. Those are really the only changes that we have at this point, in addition to the routine updates, name changes, date changes, any wording clarification, but nothing else content-wise. I did want to just draw your attention to two items under the items of note. Number one, about the PSAT exam. The College Board, who runs the AP program and also the PSAT exams, they have now, instead of having one PSAT exam, they have divided that. There's a PSAT for 10th, 11th grade students, and now what is new is one for 8th and 9th grade students. So I just draw that to your attention informationally. The intent of that is to give students another practice, another chance with the PSAT. Also to identify students a little earlier for appropriateness for the AP programs, and to highlight for students and parents more of the college readiness skills at a younger age. So that's the change with the PSAT, which is a College Board change. Also, in our handbook, we have a page where we list progress reports and report card dates, and we have a schedule with specific dates. And I just wanted to alert you to the fact that in our effort to go paperless, we still have those dates, but we physically do not send home report cards and progress reports. They are available online through the Aspen Family Portal. Parents and students can access that on the dates, by the dates that we publish. And of course, if we have a parent that cannot access that, we will entertain any request for a hard copy. So I just wanted you to know we're no longer dealing with hard copy progress reports and report cards anymore. And just to alert you to an anticipated change in early September, the National Honor Society, there is a council of 5 teachers that serve on that council that constantly review procedures, protocols, and they are suggesting that 2 changes be made. One is the GPA to qualify for National Honor Society be raised from an 87% or a 3.4 average to a 90% or a 3.7 average to raise standards. They have the power really they have voted on this and they can make that change. But we really take pride in being very transparent at the high school with any of our decisions. So what we are going to do our first few days of school, that faculty council, Honor Society Council, is going to present these changes to the entire faculty and gather some input, take that input, and then decide where they want to go with this. So I anticipate we'll be coming back to you in a September meeting to let you know if, in fact, these changes will be made to Honor Society. So that's the first one, raising the GPA from 87% to 90%. The second one is just a timeline change, and it's to screen students at the end of the sophomore year and the end of the junior year for admission as juniors or seniors, so they benefit from a full year of membership. Previously, the screening process began at the start of the junior year and the start of the senior year. So by the time that process happened and the students were admitted, they only realized half a year of membership each of those years. So it's just adjusting the timeline to back it up to the end of the previous year, so the next year they can benefit from a full year of service and activities in the Honor Society. So those really are our changes. I did note, and of course, probably an hour after this was sent electronically, in the athletics section of the handbook on page 48, there's a heading that says Monomoy Athletic Program, and it lists all the sports. Well, your copy has 2014-2015. That wasn't corrected. It's now corrected. It's 2015-16. But of course, nothing is available to the public. It's not online until you grant your approvals anyway. So it's been corrected, and once you approve that, that will go out. So the only people that will know that that mistake has been made is you and people watching on TV tonight.
The ice hockey, isn't that girls and boys now?
You are right, yes, yes. Our athletic director did proof the handbook, and I proofed the handbook. He's new this year, and that one quickly slipped by, but we did catch that, so that will be corrected too. Yes?
Sure.
First, I'm really impressed, and I think the format that you have here for us to understand what changes have been made is fabulous. I have 2 questions. One is, when you're talking about the National Honor Society, is the honor roll still 80 to anything above 80, and then anything above 90 would be high honors?
There's a section in here on honor roll, on page 14 of the handbook, which is separate than honor society. It appears actually right page before honor society. High honors, letter grades of 80 of A, in all subjects. Honors, letter grades of B or higher in all subjects. So the criteria is slightly different.
And so the other question on that particular thing is, are all the other Cape Towns, or the majority of all the other Cape Towns doing this, moving up to 90? That seems pretty severe. I know they have to.
Well, there is some local control to that, and there is a mechanism at each school, some type of a faculty advisory council, to make these type of changes. So in the charter, there are guidelines and there's a range, but each school has some flexibility in setting what they want to set. And I don't know exactly for each Cape school, but when we come back to you in September, I can have that information so you know what the other districts are doing.
This rate of 90, how many kids do you think, because we had, last year it was 87, how many kids are we talking about that make this?
That would be excluded by?
No,
that would be in it.
That would be
That
in
would
it.
be in it.
I mean, is it a hugely exclusive group of people, a handful, or?
You know, it's hard for me to say that. I really have to talk to our director of guidance, who's more in tune with the grades on a daily basis.
Those are questions. The progress reports and report cards, I really understand going paperless on that. And I have no idea how many people don't have access to computers. I mean, you'd expect most people would. I'm wondering how, in our evaluation system and our new thrust as schools, we're trying to put 1/4 of that into communicating with parents and the public. And in that line, I just wonder, I don't know, whether it's going to diminish. Before, parents had to, how long has it been since they had to sign these things and actually return them?
At the high school, we've never had that since I've been here. At the lower grade levels, I know at the elementary school they do. I'm not sure about the middle school. But I can also say we're well aware that not everyone has a computer, has access to it. They want the hard copy even if they have access. I can tell you in my experience, I probably deal with maybe 5 or 6 parents a school year for discipline, for grades, who want a hard copy of something. Also, we are going to provide training. I don't think we have the date set. The Aspen Family Portal for parents, to bring the parents in and provide training, so they walk them through so they know exactly how to access grades, and they'll feel more comfortable doing that.
Especially the kids coming out, but I'm just interested in the future here, and not especially about this, but how we're involving, because all the research says, and I know we've talked about goals, that more parent participation really helps. And, you know, being a counselor here, I know that there are people that are not taking the initiative to check into progress reports and things like that. So I don't know where to go with that.
I can tell you though, honestly, in terms of email, with the advent of email, I personally, in terms of discipline-related issues, have much more communication with parents now, who are much more apt to send me an email about what's this detention about, or my son had an issue in this class, could you look into it? So I tend to get more communication from parents.
That's a very good point. You know, texting and emails, I think people are very up on that.
Right, and we are going to provide the parents more training with that Aspen Family Portal to make them comfortable with accessing and navigating.
Thank you very much.
Terry first. Terry first.
Actually, Mr. Russell was better this afternoon. And actually, Sharon, you asked all the questions that I was going to pose, so thank you. I'm all set.
Mr. Whitaker?
Thank you.
Sharon's raised a question in my mind too. What is the ability of Aspen to note who has reviewed the report cards? Do you get feedback as to which parents have actually looked at the report cards and which ones haven't?
I don't know if Aspen has that mechanism. We will ask Deb Morgan that question and see if that's a feature. I know with emails, there's a feature where you
Sure.
can see who has opened up the email and read the email. But I'm not sure with the grading. I'll find out and I'll get that information back to you.
I have a question. When you say the National Honor Society, concerning the proposed change of the qualifying GPA, I was always under the impression that the National Honor Society actually set those standards.
They do, and there's a charter, but there is some flexibility for some local control.
How much is that flexibility? I mean, what is that flexibility? What's that?
Not being the National Honor Society advisor, we have two co-advisors, and not sitting on that council, I can't answer that for you. But I can see that this is a topic of concern, so I will find out much more information for you about National Honor Society, so when we come back in September, we can give you all that information. And I can get that to you in advance of the next meeting where the handbook would be approved.
That would be great. No,
Okay.
I was really surprised to see that the school can actually set the standards as opposed to the National Honor Society itself. I didn't know that.
I
Thank you.
believe they set minimums and you can increase them. Oh, we can verify that.
No,
Ah.
you can. I was the
So they set
advisor
minimums?
way back
Yeah,
when.
they set minimums and we can increase them.
Uh-huh.
That's the discrepancy we have.
Yeah. No? Any further questions? We will move on to the Monomoy Middle School.
Thanks, Jay.
15-16 handbook.
Good evening. This should be relatively quick. Monomoy Middle School took advantage of the work that was done at the high school and recognized that we want to speak as a unified district when we address parents. So we took the high school handbook that had been developed last year and vetted through school attorneys, et cetera. Kind of married that with the middle school language. We didn't need some pieces around PSAT participation or students driving to school and what we do with those students who might drive themselves and arrive late. Those were not applicable, so we removed those pieces. Did add a few pieces here and there and kind of summarize kind of the key aspects of what is kind of common and the common message we want to have for parents about students' rights, privileges, and responsibilities as we communicate. And then basically have the same information for you here that the high school has for you. Those policies should be consistent, and parents should know right off with students as well that when you enter the Monomoy community is kind of a set standard of expectations that will travel with you up through the system. And I think it's helpful to have a handbook that looks the same and reads the same so that the expectations don't change as we go from school to school. So most of the rest is pretty much the same. We've updated the dates and the contact lists. You have a sample schedule that describes sort of the day in the life of a student at the middle school. And I would open up the floor to any questions that you might have.
Mark, it's really middle as well as high school with Jane. I thought of this. In both schools, do we have professional agendas / assignment books that we give out to the kids and they're responsible for it?
We do in the middle school.
And my question is, and I think Sharon brought it up, well, actually, Brian, back in the day, I can recall having all those kids sent home with it. And then within 4 or 5 days, they returned their agendas with a page that had a parent's signature.
Yes.
Supposedly the parents read it.
Yes.
That might be one way, even in 8th grade.
We do for the 8th grade.
So, yeah.
It's pocket size. It was.
Oh, that's a Plymouth one. You need
No. This is the new one for 8th grade in Monomoy this year.
Oh, excellent, yeah.
It's pocket size because the teachers took some student feedback and they didn't want to carry around a binder size, so they Book size, put it right on the top.
Yeah. Good, that's one minor way.
We have a sign-off sheet, every student's required to bring that home, and parents have to sign off that they have, received the handbook, reviewed it, understand the key provisions, and return that to us. And we do track that down to make sure they're familiar with our policies and procedures. There's also, we made it simple for parents, there are some things they can opt out of the handbook, and those are actually listed in your guide on the back fold there. Some things they can opt out of is the participation in human sexual education curriculum, the school's default permission to photograph, audio tape, and videotape students, our permission to photograph students for publication in local newspapers, and students' privilege to access the district's network. So they can, if they ever want to express that, it's all on the same page. Before we had that on actually multiple pages, which I didn't think was very friendly for parents. I will speak to, I think, the question about Aspen and reporting. I can speak to another student information system that did have that availability, and I'll just let you know that as a principal, we had a different informational system called PowerSchool. I was able to see exactly when a parent logged in, how long they had logged in for, what they looked at, how often they were checking, and our communication rate improved dramatically, particularly at the middle school level, for grades 5 through 7 through 8. We had 90% of our parents were checking on a regular basis. So the whole signature page that we used to get the report card home and sign off is a carryover from when we did not have digital communication. It was a relatively inefficient way to tell parents once every 9 weeks what was happening, and now we can actually tell them instantly every day. And it's just the key of getting them trained so they'll log into Aspen and check those grades. And then our orientation session we have for our incoming 5th grade parents rising on Monday, we will be training all of those parents how to access Aspen, and we'll do that every year so that once they're familiar with how to log in, they can follow their children's progress from grades 5 through 12. So we'll make that an automatic part of our annual orientation for parents.
I just want to say I was really pleased to see the change in the cell phones and technology, and I wondered if you could speak to that.
Yes, based on both informal parent feedback, but very strong staff feedback. There was a concern that our students were not misusing cell phones and other technology when they came to school, but not really engaging in the social environment that we provide. And that particularly like at lunchtime, rather than be with their peers and take advantage of the downtime that we provide in the day through lunch and the fresh air time, that with the access to personal communication device, they would shut out the rest of the world and play games instead of taking advantage of the fresh air time and socializing at lunch. So we didn't really have a lot of issues with misuse, but we felt that the best way to use those tools would be for an educational purpose, and that if parents need to get a hold of their son or daughter during the school day, the most efficient way to do it, and one that respects the educational environment, is call the main office. And we will get a message to your child instantly, and the child needs to make a phone call. They're always available to come down and use the phone and contact their parents. It was very disruptive to the environment when a student in the middle of a lesson would get a text from a parent wondering how their day was going. I mean, it just doesn't help concentration, it doesn't help the lesson, and it will be better if they can give them a summary report at the end of the day.
Great change.
Thanks.
Sharon?
I totally agree with Amy on that grade on cell phones. Now, in here, it's only the highlighted things that were changed, or did you add some new paragraphs?
There's not too much that we added. I don't mind directing specific, if you want to take a look at page 12. Just an eligibility to participate in extracurricular activities or sports. We made it kind of appropriate for the middle school level. That was some language that's in addition. We added some language around dances. There was no language in the handbook, and we'd actually like to have dances and have an expectation. So there's, on page 13, some short language about dances. And the rest of it is pretty much straight from the high school.
On the calling, when parents have a child home absent, it says just call during any time in the day, as far as I could see. I might be wrong on that. Is there like a time parents need to call so that you'd know if...
If we don't receive a phone call by 9:30, we reach out to make sure it verifies safe arrival.
that we don't have a missing child situation.
That's right.
It's just a parent hasn't taken care of responsibilities yet.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
This is going out to parents and students, the one sheet,
Yes.
very much like that. I like the rights, privileges, and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Not only will we receive it, our homeroom teachers will be going over sections of that, so we'll get a common message across the whole room.
It's very well done, very, very well written. That's it, thank you, sorry, just comment on it.
Any other questions?
I'll get used to that. Thank you.
You're off the hook.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Monomoy Regional High School scheduling, course offerings, and class size update.
While that warms up, you have the hard copies here. This is something I shared with the school committee at our retreat. It's certainly something that I wanted to come and follow up with to share with the community and the public on our scheduling process and how it's evolved and how it's a reflection of our school vision and, you know, the progress we've made and the good place we're at this year to start the school year. So a little bit will be review for you, but maybe educational for our community on the hows, whys, and whats we come up with our schedule for our students each year. You want me to sing while we wait, Jim? Some Sinatra? The audience is going to change the channel on me here, man. All right, well, I'll start anyways, and we can get the visual going. You have the hard copies. Scheduling to us is and I've always believed this, thank you, is a reflection of your vision. It's not simply putting kids in classes that they choose, and it's not ever that simple, especially in high school. We really wanted to reflect a vision, shared vision that we come up with as a collective community. And in year one, I think we did a nice job with this. And some simple highlights at the top there are, you know, high standards and a variety of opportunities for kids. We want kids to have a really well-rounded education and experience while meeting their graduation requirements, but also having high standards for all and the ability to move up and improve and grow. A big piece of this year, and I've talked a lot about this, is the transition year for 8th graders coming into our school. Very new experience. Typically kids in a lot of schools come into 9th grade, 8th grade, they're still young, and it's a big difference between 8th grade and senior year. We want to make that seamless and enjoyable for our kids, but we also want to make sure that they're prepared. So we spent a lot of time incorporating items that I'm going to give you some specifics on that help us do that in the schedule. And kind of the summary there is to, you know, it stretches their learning with a laser focus on some data-driven decisions. That's where a lot of this came from, is from information that we received after year one. And to a supportive team approach to teaching, and one that challenges students but also supports our struggling learners. And some example of specifics, we've gone to a middle school 8th grade teaming model with our staff, in which we have 2 teams of 5 teachers that share the same students. So we have a blue team and a silver team. So approximately 65 students will be on the blue team. Those same students will go with those same 5 teachers. And so the benefit of that is that built within the schedule is those same 5 teachers have a common time that they have off. And the ability to talk about students, supports, contact parents, have parent meetings where they can all be there during the school day. It really is a powerful and effective measure that's been proven in all middle schools. So having the 8th grades, we thought that was important. It was overwhelmingly supported by our teachers, and I think it's going to really pay dividends for us this year in supporting our 8th graders and to making sure no one falls through the cracks that first year. Team meetings, when the teachers do want to meet, we have the ability to bring in Mr. Martin, our 8th grade administrator. We also have the ability to bring in our school psychologists for social emotional support, guidance counselors, myself, whoever. We just have that wide range of abilities to get people at the table that normally wouldn't be able to do so during the school day. And the last piece there is that, you'll hear this again, to provide some tutoring where our upperclassmen that want to challenge themselves and have a strength in an area would help come down and support those 8th and 9th graders that are struggling in a tutor-type environment, with a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 type of thing. So this is great for our upperclassmen who want to help share their knowledge, but also helps our younger kids so that they have a connection with an older student that can help support them in academics. Next slide, Jim. Some other things that we look for, and I often talk to our staff about this, we always try to define what a great school looks like, and I think we always look for giving examples and not just fluff or philosophy. What does a great school look like? And I think after year one, we believe it was providing unique opportunities for kids that generic high school wouldn't offer. What makes us special, what makes us great, and some of these unique opportunities that we built into the schedule. And again, these are the first things we talk about before we build the schedule and then incorporate them, is increasing our AP numbers. And what do I mean by that? Meaning increasing the number of kids that are taking advanced placement courses. Not only that, the number of kids that take the exam, and then finally that are successful on that exam with a score of 3 or better. A lot of schools you may read about in the newspaper, oh, we've tripled our AP enrollment. They often don't talk about, well, did they take the test, how they do, were they successful in that class, or are you just getting them in there to beef your numbers? So we've collected data on our numbers from year one, and we look to increase that, and we're doing that with a very strategic method. And a couple examples here are advocating. Our teachers do a real nice job of talking about those programs, what they are offering when the kids are going into the next year, into talking to the kids, and I think that's really helped with the trust the teachers have with our students. We've done some celebrations. For example, we've had a breakfast for all the AP students. If you just took an AP course, that's a big deal. That's not easy. So we had a breakfast celebration. We got them T-shirts, and we made a big deal of it. And they're the only ones with that T-shirt walking around the school. We want that to be a cool thing. Things like that being appreciated. And then increased time. With our new schedule this year, there's at least 20 more hours of class time for all our classes. But AP, that was a struggle last year with our schedule. Meeting every other day, we were a little at disadvantage as the class hours weren't as much as their surrounding schools. So with our new schedule, we're allowed to increase that class time and contact time with teachers. So those we should see help our numbers increase in that respect. This community internship course, you often hear about this in college, and kind of what attracted me when I was searching for colleges for my daughter is I wanted her to have the ability to go out and do an internship. Northeastern's very noted for this, very successful program, but what's happening now is pretty much most colleges now are doing this. They're allowing the kids to go out while they're in school to go experience real life, authentic experiences in the fields that they're interested in. So we decided, well, in this, why can't high school kids do that? And so our juniors and seniors have that opportunity to go out, and Ms. Gao will be teaching that this year, our Mandarin teacher, who is extremely popular and successful in building our Mandarin program from scratch, is excited to take this over this year. Last year we didn't have a teacher overseeing this. We had a guidance counselor who did it. The numbers have gone way up of the interest here, and I won't share all that. You can read that on your own, but basically it's a 4-day experience out in the community, for example, and it's a great way to make community connections. So if you want to be a police officer, we have connections with Chatham and Harwich Police, where a student would go out there for an hour a day, 4 days a week. On the 5th day, all the kids come back into the classroom and have an experience there. They talk about that. They keep a portfolio. They have guest speakers. And at the end of the year, it culminates, and this is brand new, into a project about their experience that's going to be presented in front of a mini kind of committee with parents, maybe a school committee member, staff, where they have to kind of discuss their experience and be accountable and share that. So it's a really powerful course that a lot of kids are attracted to right now. It's becoming very popular, and only its 2nd year. So I wanted to share that and some exciting things. I mentioned the tutoring opportunity. Kids can get credit to help other kids. And that's a really cool thing. If they've met all their graduation requirements and they are really comfortable in a subject area, they may sign up for that and help other students. And that's kind of dovetails in what I talked about with the 8th grade supports. So it works nicely on both ends for high achievers and for those students that need support. A new enrichment focus. What really excited me to come to this district is the unique opportunity every other week to have an enrichment block built into the school schedule to add depth and breadth of knowledge for our kids and life experiences they may not see every day in the classroom or experience outside the classroom. So our goal is to make personal connections with every kid in the school. There should be an adult in that school, at least one that they can connect with and feel comfortable going to and feel safe with. So I think that's the ultimate goal of any enrichment or personalized learning focus, and that's going to be the idea this year. During that time, we've skipped down. We have a committee this year. We have 3 outstanding teachers that have volunteered to basically organize these events. Last year we had 1 teacher kind of doing it with myself, and she did a phenomenal job. 3 people have stepped up. They've met over the summer several times to make this really important. And we used the data from our Risk Youth Behavior Survey to have some speakers and some curriculum on social emotional issues, drug use and abuse, really powerful stuff that are going to impact what the kids told us in their surveys, where we're deficient and where we need support and education on for our kids. So we're using that information and data to provide that experience. And we're also going to put a menu type of option this year for the kids. The kids, when they took our school-based survey, told us that they liked enrichment a lot, but it was always only one choice, and if they didn't like that choice, kids like choices. So this year we're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 things that they may choose to go to during the enrichments, and I think that's going to be really cool for the kids, and they'll like that. So that's new this year, and it's exciting, and it's our teachers getting involved, organizing that. Then the last piece there, again, and that's schedule. It's part of your schedule. Leadership systems. We have some outstanding department heads that really do a great job with a lot of this work in the schedule with their teachers. And last year we were meeting after school for a lot of hours. Came in over the summer, really putting a lot of time in, and we committed, I thought it was important that we have time during the school day, if we could schedule it and not impact the schedule negatively, to commit to having our department heads have common time off, like the 8th grade teachers, so that they can meet with me pretty much any time during the week, during school, and talk about curriculum, talk about schedule, talk about anything that goes on in the school. Really powerful to have that ability to do that. And great schools have that, and so now we have that. So I think that's really important to have that ability to meet with your leadership team during the day to kind of plan and organize and set the tone for the day, the school year, and so forth. And then the student support team this year, which will consist of administrators, school nurse, adjustment counselor, school psychologists, guidance counselors, and resource officer. We'll meet weekly. Mr. Monomoy will head that committee, and basically that's sit around a table like this. We get our list out of kids and we talk about our kids. And a lot of it's attendance, social, emotional. Again, nobody falls through the cracks. With our teaming, we talk more about the academics. Could be social, emotional. But this is a group, the guidance team, and in education, it's really tough if a guidance counselor knows something. Sometimes it always doesn't get back to the teacher, or what can we tell the teacher? And this group kind of summarizes all that stuff, talks about it. So if little Joey's parents are going through a tough time, it's impacting Joey in the school, and this guidance counselors know that. That group talks about how do we settle it, how do we help this child, what can we tell the teachers, what can we do to help this person, and that group branches out, talks to the teachers, and gets the student support. So that's a weekly meeting that really is a new addition that we've scheduled into our system. The next slide. So now we get into, we've got the philosophies down, and I just summarized some. There's a lot more, and again, these were all things we came together as a staff and we thought were important. Now, how do you do the schedule? Well, it starts in January, and the program of studies is developed and built. And again, after year 1, we went back to the drawing board. Department heads, teachers looked at it, what worked, what went well, what courses were, need tweaking, which ones, should we run, what new ones should we add. All that kind of discussion goes on, pretty intensely for a month or two. And then we come to an agreement. The central office is involved. Dr. Blanchard plays a big role in that. Scott plays a big role in that. And then we agree on it, and then that's when you approve the program of studies. That's the first big step. Those are the courses that we feel are strong for our school. After that's done, the students sign up for courses. And then we've got what's called a course tally. Each course is listed with a number of kids signed up. And we have primary and secondary choices. Typically you go by the primary. That's what the kids want. The secondary, they may happen, they may not. If the kids don't get their first, they may get their second, that type of stuff. So we make our judgments on the primary numbers. Those are the real hard numbers that we have kids scheduled for. And so what we do then is we get the teachers involved. In the first year we weren't able to do this because the schedule was built in July. So now we're in March and April with our teachers sitting down. They've got those numbers in front of them. And let's say I'm in the science department. I sit down and I see, okay, which teachers are going to teach this section of biology? Who's going to teach chemistry? And so now teachers have buy-in. They're teaching what they want to teach, what they're comfortable and passionate about teaching, certified to teach. And those conversations go along with the teachers. They bring it back at department head meeting, I approve it. It's great. It helps with buy-in. You want people teaching what they're passionate about, and I think it really went well this year, and we didn't have any problems. Now, when that's done, you have to decide what classes you're going to run and what you don't run. And I'm going to allude to, I know business was a hot topic last year, and I'll address that today. But business isn't the only course that was not run this year, or business courses. There's several courses in every department that we don't run this year, but we came up with some really great ideas in which, if you don't run it this year, it doesn't mean it's gone forever. For example, the English department had numerous courses that were wonderful for kids, but we just had too many courses. So, for example, one course might have 1 or 2 kids sign up. We can't run it. We can't run a class with 1 or 2 kids, but we're going to get the kids excited for that course and try to run it next year. So on a 5-year cycle, when a child comes through the school district, he'll eventually have the opportunity to take that course. It's not dead in the water. Now, after 5 years, 6 years, or whatever we decide as a faculty that no one's ever picked that course, then we have to say, okay, we have to phase this one out, maybe bring another one in. It's just not what we have if it's not a graduation requirement. So those things are looked at by the teachers, by the administrators, with, looking at the numbers and making database decisions on what our students choose and what they need for graduation. Those are how all decisions are made. And then the schedule is what we call run. We plug it all in. We decide who's teaching what, how many sections of each based on the numbers, class sizes. That is an also important thing and a philosophical thing that we're committed to as a district. And the class size max that we wanted to do this year was, I think we put it in at 18 or 19, which is unheard of in any district. I'm telling you, this is unheard of. When I was building schedules in Plymouth, it was the minimum class size was 24 and the max was 30. And they averaged out about 27, 28. And I think they're still at that number. That's where my kids go. And it's common. But it's not ideal. We know that lower class sizes are better for our kids. So we committed to that number. We put a new protocol in place, getting feedback from teachers. So when a class hit over that 18 or 19 number, I have the jurisdiction only to increase that number. That way all different, hands out in the cookie jar add numbers and no one's keeping track, which may have happened last year a little bit. All right, so therefore you get classes of 27, 28, and some of 18 or 19. This year that didn't happen. And also when we increase a class size above 18 or 19, we let the teacher know. Send them an email, said, guidance counselor send an email. Ms. Jones, Bill Burke has just approved. We add 1 more child to your class. It's up to 19 or 20. It's a courtesy to the teacher to know that we did that. If they have any questions or concerns, come talk to me. So the teachers are very appreciative because we didn't do that the year before. Okay, so that's the other benefit I think this year was that the teachers went home with their schedules. Last year they knew what they're teaching to the first week of school. All right, this year they went home, they knew what they were teaching, they know what periods they were teaching it, they know how many sections. They just didn't know what kids they had yet because the kids weren't popular. But that's pretty darn good to go home and have that. And it was really good peace of mind to be able to provide that with our staff. And we also provided, I believe every teacher this year has their own classroom. Again, to me that's important. I think that should be the case everywhere. It's not always able to do so. It's a nice luxury to have. But I think it's important it's a good thing for teachers. So we're able to do that too this year, which is a huge benefit for us. On the bottom, Scott gave me this idea and it's been wonderful. Basically what you'll see there, this is in our guidance, it's on a big whiteboard, about the size of this one here. These are all the classes that we're running and what periods they're running in the blue. And the idea of this is transparency. So when the kids and the parents come in, they want to move a class or they want to look for a class that they want to change, or if they can almost do it themselves and come in the guidance and say, here it is. For example, on the first day the guidance team was back a couple weeks ago, a young man was sitting down with his mother. I sat down next to him. I said, how you doing? Great. And he had a notebook out and he's looking at the board. I said, what are you doing? I said, before no one told him what it was. He says, I gotta move a class and I'm looking where it's available and I think I got it figured out. And it's really cool. So now when these classes fill up, we'll put a red check mark through them, meaning we've hit the maximum. They're not available, so that kids are able to massage their schedule and have input in what they want to do. And as parents as well, they want to come in and look at this and see what they can do. So that way, parents know, kids know that, this when you move A to B, this has an impact on your schedules, and they figure that out by doing it. So that's an example. If you ever back in the school, come check it out. It's pretty impressive, and it's really so far already paid dividends where the kids are actually coming in and they can see, and we'll direct them to do that because they might see something we don't. And it's also, you know, they're pretty bright people. So if they can figure it out, hey, great, we'll do it. So that's the board I wanted to show you. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. Class sizes. You know, this is an estimate. Things are still changing a little bit right now, but it's pretty close. I compared last year to this year on the numbers we had. You know, when we cut 6 or 7 staff members, or positions, I shouldn't say staff members, positions, which is hugely unfortunate. But moving from an 8 to a 7-period schedule, having the time like I talked about, having teacher involvement, we were able to keep the class sizes pretty consistent, if not lower, this year. Now, that being said, this is nice on paper. In real life, you know, there's flexibility. The good news is, last year it could have been from 8 to 28. This year, looking at the numbers, and I've already had some teachers come in and, you know, and compliment the scheduling team on what they've done. The numbers are pretty much 16, 18, 19, 21, 22. I think we had a couple classes 23. And last year there was a lot of 28s. So we're in a really good place right now with that average in the class sizes, and it's very manageable, and I think people are going to be happy about it. So that's good news. Now I'll get into the business piece and how that transpires. One example of classes that we don't run. For the second year in a row, our business classes, some of them we didn't have the numbers to run. And that was the case last year in the first year. In the first year, because our schedule was such a mess, and business wasn't the only class. When we had low numbers and kids didn't have a place to schedule, we said, okay, you're taking a business course, or you're taking an English elective. Well, I don't really want that. Well, that's all we have room for you. And that's not a great way to schedule. But that's the case. Can you go on to the next slide? So here are some, you know, some of the numbers. So accounting 2, 12 kids, business management 11, a couple years in a row consistent like that. So you know, good numbers elsewhere, which makes the case to you know, continue looking into this for next year, certainly. The breadth, what happens when you have a bunch of we'll call it singletons, a bunch of single courses that aren't in really a department, is if a kid takes that, it's going to limit their ability and flexibility. So in English, you might have 4 sections of English, 9 honors, where I have a lot of places I can go pick that opposite of my, you know, my music course or something like elective that I would like. When you take a singleton, it limits that, but that's true of all singleton courses. This happens to be one example, but that's a downside of having singletons like that. That's why it's important that we incorporate business back into the math department, where it has some strength and teeth and support and safety, so it's not hanging alone and creating singletons like that. The last one, in the, you know, the most important one, you know, I want to make it clear to everybody that, you know, although we've cut some business courses for this year, we lost some business courses, and no one likes any cuts. But again, it's happened across the board in all departments. It doesn't mean it's not coming back. We've committed to, and we've heard the community loud and clear. You know, this is a business community. We want to come back bigger and stronger next year in our program of studies and incorporate this into the math department. Also include in the business, those courses, the ability to count for graduation credit, which is important. It gives it strength and stability. We also want to go out and research out with local and national businesses and colleges, what's the best business programs we can offer our kids at Monomoy, and then incorporate those classes and put them in our program of studies. So that's going to be a big part of our process next year when we do the program of studies, is looking at our business program, how we can strengthen it. So it's not gone forever, it's going to be new and improved and better, you know, again. So I think that's important to note, that it'll be back, and we'll see, and we'll bring the evidence on. These are the courses that, you know, we believe are best for our kids in the business community, to allow them to either go to college and pursue business, or to go right out of high school and work in the local economy, as a future business owner, and get involved in business. So those are the kind of criteria and courses we want to offer, so they can be standalone and get out in the community. But we do want to include those certainly for next year. And now the next piece is just some, you know, because we did add some a culinary position, you know, and the reasons for that. The culinary elective has been our most popular 2 years in a row, hands down. And these numbers for culinary might even be a little low. I think they might have even increased. So if you look at the primary science, when you're looking at 2 electives, and we go back to our primary philosophy of opportunities, we're averaging 62 requests per course for culinary and 25 for business. These are some hard decisions I have to make. And so the culinary piece was important. It's a thriving program at our school, and it's back to that what makes us unique. With our kitchen set up in there, the new school, it was hardly being used last year. Now it will be. The kids loved it. We've got an unbelievable dynamic teacher, and that program is just going to flourish. And again, it's another program that the kids can go out in the community and work right away with those courses. So I think that's an exciting thing. Part two of this is that there was talk about students that were seniors that were already signed up that needed that extra business class to graduate. And that's true, and I wanted to share a plan for that, because no kid's going to be left out or not succeed here. I will tell you that. And these are the numbers. 6 seniors were assigned to that accounting class that needed to graduate. That's true. 4 are already scheduled in a math class that they feel. All right, so they're not online, they're taking a math class with a teacher, they'll succeed. We'll make sure of that. 2 seniors are scheduled for an online course with guidance oversight. They'll take it in the guidance office, have oversight if they need a teacher, a support, or a student tutor support, we'll get that for them. And I'm going to follow that up with some of our successes last year with our senior class, because we've already done this with all our students and all their courses as seniors. I think there was a myth out there that there's a bunch of kids that need these courses to graduate and they're going to fail. Absolutely not. Those are the numbers. We are very well aware who those students are, and they will succeed and graduate. And we do have them on our radar, and we'll support them. The last piece I just wanted to put kind of goes to what we're committed to in our first year. I put a little asterisk on here because the Department of Education has its own really complicated way of doing graduation rate, and it's over the course of the high school career, when kids start, when they end, the cohort type of thing. Since we've only been 1 year, I did my own data for the first year, but it's impressive. And this is a credit to our teachers, to really going above and beyond to make sure that, and our guidance team and all our support team and administrators. So in year 1, with all the hectic stuff going on, walking over boxes and moving in and, really getting acclimated to a new culture, we had a really high success rate for our seniors. And they would, and ultimately the credits to them, because they had it the hardest, the kids. So we had 98 seniors coming in, 83 walked in June, 1 graduated, 1 in July, 1 just graduated. We just got to work. He sat down and met with us. We made him a plan to get summer school courses, met with the mother, met with the child. He committed to it, got it done. We just got the transcripts. We're going to have a special little mini ceremony for that young man to make sure he gets his diploma. So that is new news from our last meeting. And there's 1 more out there that's almost done that will get his diploma very shortly. He's close to finishing up. Then the next one is 10 certificate of completions. Those are typically students that are still in our special education program that will go into their 22. There may be 1 or 2 that haven't passed the MCAS that we'll be working on that with them. So those are kind of, still with us. And then we had 2 dropouts out of the 98, which is unacceptable to me. Next year we're going to try for 100%, but 98% with state averages is very high. So, again, that's a good first year. And again, those are my numbers. And next year we'll come back and we'll continue to look at those. And then eventually, once we're online for a couple of years, we'll have what the state determines our numbers are. Thank you.
Question.
Sure.
On you talked about the business courses having someone speaking with the businesses in town to make sure that we're offering the things that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Is that being assigned to the guidance department to do? And what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Yeah, we haven't made a plan on that yet. I think that's going to start big picture at the central office level, and how we do that and how we develop that plan and who's on board. But certainly that'll be very thorough, and I think the more people involved strategically, the better. The more input we gather, and then make decisions with our staff involved, we'll certainly do that.
Some of that, even on my end, tomorrow night I'm speaking and meeting with the Rotary Group in Harwich, and that'll be one of the conversations that we'll be having. But, what do they need from our graduates here locally in the economy?
Very good. Sharon?
I think that was a really good question, or a statement that you said. I didn't even know we were doing that. That's very helpful. Last year, how many students enrolled in Monomoy at the beginning?
Total students?
Yeah.
I think it was 620.
620, okay.
Yes.
And what about this year?
I think we're at 635.
That's great.
Yeah, I think, we're in very good shape. We had to actually shut down our school choice at this point because we're pretty comfortable with our student levels. So I think, another thing that was brought up, well, mass exodus of the school, it didn't happen. Kids were still school choicing in. Our school's great. Matter of fact, I talked to our guidance counselor, Mr. Gifford, today, and we had a group from parents from out of the country that came in, and they're shopping schools. They have a house on the Cape, but they live in, I forget what country it was, another country. They're moving here next year. And it's between us, Sturgis, and Nauset where they're sending their child. And to be in that discussion in year 2 is promising for us.
They're from Barcelona.
Barcelona?
Met them today, yes.
Thanks, sir. So they've been at the middle school. So if we got Mr. Wilson involved, it was a lot.
On the business courses, which ones were cut out?
All but personal finance.
Everything.
Yes.
Like personal finance?
Yes.
Let's see. On the student tutors that you're having, it sounds like a wonderful idea. I'm wondering what is there time in the day for the upperclassmen to take out? Is it a course that they're taking?
Yes, it
to
is.
do
So
that?
it'll be scheduled in. So we'll have a block to do that.
And
We also
that's-
have, I believe, an advisor position, for an after-school position where a teacher can be paid to do that and organize after-school tutoring as well.
And do they get any credit or anything like that, or is it a course instead? Or?
Oh, the after-school they can, sure.
Okay.
Bill, is there any possibility that those students will be available to tutor at the middle school?
Exactly what I was just thinking.
Mr. Wilson asked if it's a possibility for those students to be available for the middle school. Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Or elementary, yeah. I think that, especially the after-school program would be a nice way to, as part of their curriculum, to go down and help the younger kids in Monomoy. That's a great idea.
Monomoy will come half an hour later or something for their day.
I think we're the same.
The same?
Yeah, it works out good.
Okay, that would
Yeah.
work good. I have one question on the, maybe a comment. The AP seminar is a study, like a study hall or
Yes,
something?
I neglected to go over that. Basically, as an incentive for our kids, the kids came to me with this recommendation, and it kind of, my own daughter, she was taking 3 AP courses last year, and our kids were doing the same, and she was working, she played sports, and, I just saw her hit, she's up at 4 in the morning, she's up, doing her homework, she goes to bed at midnight, and it was really beating her up. And, that's the summer work. And then when we started talking about this in school, one of the schools, I forget, Howard Chatham, had an incentive for the kids. If they took 2 AP courses, they could have a study type of group study where all the kids in that AP would be in the library, work independently or together to help each other with their assignments. And it was a great thing. So we piloted it last year with kids that took 3 AP courses as an option. You didn't have to. Some of the kids took advantage of it. Some wanted to take other electives. But after talking to those kids, they absolutely loved it. They had it at my daughter's school. It made a world of difference to her. She got her social life back. She was able to be a kid and have that time and do some of the huge workload. So what we talked about with the staff and students this year is, well, maybe if we increase it to kids that take 2, all right, can we get those kids that don't take any or 1 to take 2 now? If they get that little carrot there where they have time to do that work. Because after talking to the kids, a lot of it is the increasing workload and they not the time to do it. So our carrot there is, okay, we'll allow you to sign up for this course and give you time in school to do that. And we're going to keep track on how those numbers increase and if it works.
I love the idea, but I'm not sure about how the carrot would work on. I've seen a lot of kids over the years that are really trying really hard to do A work or something in their average classes. Or maybe they're struggling to take an honors class. Well, we still have honors classes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think the need is just as great, and some teachers may disagree because there's definitely more. If you're taking an AP, as far as I know, is a college course, and so they have to pass a test. It's a little different criteria, but I think for many individuals, they're up till all hours of the night just trying to do something. So if we could consider thinking if the kids could have some other time in the day to do something like that, I think it could make a difference on more kids than this.
I agree.
Thank you.
The return of study hall. That's
what it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you go that way, where all kids get it down, the state's not too keen on that.
I know.
You know, that's why we're trying to keep it, it's not many kids.
Different name.
I'm on learning. Any other
Well, that's a
questions?
good point, Mrs. Wagner, that we don't have study halls. And a lot of schools still are doing that because of scheduling issues. They don't have enough teachers, or they don't schedule it properly. So now we've got 40 kids with no classes. Okay, we'll assign a teacher on their duty, put them in the caf, put them in the auditorium, let them do their homework.
I think
We're not doing that, which is great.
the kids, the college-bound kids don't, I'm not sure how much, at least the ones I'm working with in, counseling, they don't have a good basis for studying and how to study. And some of the homes are supportive and some are not really conducive or supportive to that. So if there was even one day a week that they had, and you're calling it seminar, not study, where they could do something, the old-fashioned study hall that maybe many of us remember, where you just sit around and talk to people here and there, and that's why they did away with it.
That's right.
But if it was meaningful,
Well, we do have that, and I did mention it tonight, I mentioned it prior, that in our, part of our 8th grade curriculum, every student takes an 8th grade seminar. That's a little different than the AP seminar. That's with a teacher, it's with curriculum. We talk about study skills, we talk about the Monomoy way, which is, being nice, community service, all that kind of stuff. And we started that last year. Again, another remarkable thing that we have at our school, where the kids, we can slow it down now, we get the agendas, we can go teach them how to take notes in their agenda, how to be responsible and organize themselves, and slow the thing down and actually teach them about high school. So we do have that for all 8th graders, take that for a semester. And it's been great.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I love the 8th grade transition. I think that the thought around that is really excellent. The tutoring, the enrichment choices, all of that's great. I did have a question on the class sizes. These are averages, so what's the largest class size?
Yes, today when I looked at the numbers, I had one class, 27. I have to look at that. That's the outlier. The other highest, I had 4 or 5, 23, and that was it. The rest were...
What area was that in, you know?
That one was, I believe, U.S. History Honors,
Okay.
that class. And that, I'll have to look at, there's a reason for that. Maybe it's the only one offered during that block or something like that. But typically, like I said, 23, there was only a handful of them was the highest. Mostly around 20s, 20, 21, 16, 17, 18, 19. And that, they're pretty good.
And the fine arts, that, includes a lot of things. As a visual arts teacher, I just was wondering what the average size is as far as visual arts. Do you know?
Yeah, it was on the chart here. This might be 19.4. Last year was close to 24. It's about 20. Yes, it's good.
And my very last thing, again, I love all the thinking that went behind the 8th grade transition piece. And I think I speak for all of us when I say we're all so thrilled when we hear of our residents returning back to the district from other schools, whether Lighthouse or wherever. And I hope that we can put the same kind of focus on those kids as well. And I don't know if you could speak to that.
I'm not sure what you mean, focus on.
Well, I know of one family that it seemed like there was just a lot, it's almost like they didn't fit in the category of 8th grade, nor did they fit in the category of returning, and it almost seemed like the school wasn't, or guidance wasn't sure where, it just seemed like there were some missteps and miscommunications there, and that could be just that one person. But we're so much better than that, and you guys are, I just always think that you guys at the school do such a great job, and I wanted them to see that side, so, and I don't know if that was just that one person or if that was a real thing, that there wasn't.
8th grade or somebody going
9th grade, that's what I'm saying. So didn't quite fit into the stepping up to 8th grade or returning. It was a different area, yeah, right.
New student, so.
But a new student who's a resident, because she kept, there was a lot of oh, you're school choice. No, I'm not school choice. I'm a resident, I'm coming back. So you know.
Yeah, I will tell you that we do the same thing at what I expressed going to the middle school. I personally went to Rising Tide, the charter school, Lighthouse Charter School, excuse me, visited that school, did the same thing. Those students came over on their own day, did a day trip, came over. So everything, our athletic director went to so we are very well aware of that group of students, and we paid a lot of attention to them.
Right.
So this must have been
Well, I mean,
something that fell through the cracks.
Well, and this person was not at charter. So there are kids that are coming back who aren't at charter. Yeah.
I think one of the things, Bill, that, and you may be doing it, at my former school, we would have the incoming, of course, it was a 9, 10, 11, 12, so the incoming ninth graders had their orientation that mirrors what the 8th grade orientation was going to be, and then we did something smaller and separate for the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders that were new to the school, regardless of where they lived. And I think in part, for some of them, it was like they didn't want to be affiliated with those 8th graders, but it also for some of them gave them an interesting affinity group. If they're one's coming from Barcelona and maybe one's coming from Lighthouse or something, that you end up having that one day where you kind of get to make some connections in a smaller group too.
Yeah, makes sense. Be something for Mr. Martin to do for next year.
And that's you're next.
Mr. Russell. Just a general comment, I am very impressed, Bill, but also with all you folks. 12 months ago, we were seated someplace about to open the new high school doors and open this building here as a brand new middle school, about to greet a new middle school principal, a new high school principal. In the 12 months, we said goodbye to 30-plus excellent teachers who decided to opt out, and now we have 25 or whatever the number of brand new staff coming in. That last page you didn't allude to, but it's so true, how enthusiasm is free. And I am impressed to be here for a year and see the challenge we all faced and how much interplay enthusiasm created. Not just in the high school, but all of the challenges that we faced. Blending the new high school staff into one in the elementary schools. All of that treated into a leadership team that's really brand new. A couple of years with our superintendent and all of the others that pitched in. So I think we have looked at a year with leaps and bounds. And so I sitting here with all of the details that we could all delve into, but I've heard most impressed, and I love this, and I'm so appreciative of this, what a great thinking. I just think we've got a good thing going, and we've taken a giant step towards going from being considered good to great. So, Bill and everybody else that's joined us, I appreciate the effort you put in. It's going to pay dividends. Thanks.
Thank you. Chair?
I hate to say anything after what Terry said. That's a good combination. Could we get a copy of just the results of the student risk survey?
We'll have a presentation at an upcoming school committee meeting.
Okay, great.
If it'll come from that. Karen?
Thank you for your time and effort that you put into this presentation to tell us about the process. It was informative. I have a couple of questions. In the slide that says I need to focus Monomoy Regional High School's business offerings, it says that the classes that have low enrollment have an asterisk with them, but there's 2 here that have an asterisk that do not have low enrollment, so I didn't understand that.
Yeah, the marketing advertising was an error. I don't know why that's there, honestly. The accounting 2 and the business management. So footnote, the 2 asterisks to the right.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
And I was a little puzzled as to why personal finance with only 15 as primary elective was kept instead of marketing and advertising that had 37 and a 42.
The only reason that's kept is because a teacher that teaches that is a social studies teacher that's still in the district, so is able to teach that course. And some of the students that were signed up for those other business courses had the opportunity to go to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess I was a little surprised if there was an issue with these classes that we're calling singletons, that some of them weren't combined and kept.
What do you mean combined?
Marketing and advertising, that would be my first thought, to put those two together. I mean, they're often offered together, high school,
I think
college.
moving forward, that's what we can consider. But at the time, when we have the courses written and the schedule done, it's a little late to do that.
For this year, you're saying?
Correct.
Knowing that the process starts back in January, then, you know, certainly we'll be able to have some idea beforehand, so it won't be too late to think about something like combining those two.
Of course, that usually happens during the program studies phase. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's very helpful to know. I just wanted to mention that when I looked at the website, I looked at the website quite a bit the other night. I looked at the 2015 to 2016 course offerings for the high school, and the 5 business courses that were cut are showed as being offered.
Well, that's this year's program of studies.
But they're not being offered. I don't understand.
Right, and some of those courses that are there aren't being offered. They're still not taken out of the program of studies yet because we conceivably could run them next year. That's part of this whole process of looking at next year.
But the ones that aren't being offered this year say available in the future. So it implies, at least to me, it seemed like this is the program of studies, this is what's being offered, and these were showing as being offered.
A program of studies is the menu that students and families have that they use to go when they do the initial signups and Bill's timeline. So it's something that's used in the spring to inform students and families what if you sign up for a Shakespeare class, what's involved in Shakespeare, or what's involved in a marketing, and so that informs students when they're signing up for classes. So it's this year's program of studies that the students used back in the spring to do the course signups.
I think it's misleading to still have it on the website that these are in the program of studies. If they're not being offered this year, there should be some indication that they're not being offered. Does that not make sense?
Yeah, I think that most schools would keep that program of studies up. It's unedited. It was the menu of options, and it becomes something that guidance counselors or even college admissions counselors might need to go to look at. A student gets a grade in a particular course. It's what they're able to go to get information about that course as it stacks up against some other course at another school.
So if you're that sounds like you're talking about the course description.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? That this is for the purpose to keep it on the website is so that any person may read the course description. Is that correct? Well, that's a great reason to keep it on the website, but there's no indication that it's not being offered this current year. I think in reviewing other schools' websites, it was a little more clear.
There would be a difference then between something called the course of studies and something that might say this year's course list, right? So I mean,
This has a year on it, though.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, I don't know, I'm not sure what problem it would solve, because it's the classes have been set to the greatest extent, and the students have chosen the classes, so I'm not sure who is misled by the program of studies being in there. But I suppose, arguably, if somebody was to be thinking of moving to Harwich, to the Harwich or Chatham, to the Monomoy system in the middle of the year, they might want to know what courses are currently being taught. So maybe the solution is to have I wouldn't presume to tell you how to run your website, but maybe the solution is to have a separate section letting people know which courses are actually being offered this year as opposed to the program of studies. And just have a different title to it that makes it more clear which is which.
Well, I looked at 2014, 2015, and then I looked at 2015, 2016. So there is a separate area for each school year. That's why I thought this referred to what was being offered this school year, because it wasn't a program of studies for a whole time period that spanned multiple years, or at any given point in time. You know, it was 2014 to 2015, these are the course offerings, 2015 to 2016, these are the course offerings. And yeah, I think it would be misleading in that particular case.
I had no idea that.
How difficult is it to just put a tagline on the courses that are not currently being offered? Not currently being offerred. I mean,
Business isn't only here. Like I said, there's multiple courses that aren't run. This menu is, like we said, a menu. Each year, it's worked on for months, changed for the upcoming school year, vetted, approved by this board, and then updated on the website. So it's not a, it's not a living, breathing document that changes. It could be. If you approve that and want that, that's not a difficult thing to do.
This is no different than the course sign-up list that you'd have at Cape Cod Community College. You know, that it says here are the courses available this fall. Some of those courses won't have the enrollment and won't run, but you know, they don't go and produce a second document that has the ones that, you know, were called out. They wait till the next, you know, the next semester, and they produce the document for signups for that semester.
I'm just asking for, as you said, a tag, some sort of tag, you know, just add a little blurb, or some small indication. If it's on the website, I'm happy to do it. Web developer, be happy to, for any of the courses.
Steve?
Steve? I don't go to the website, but I would find this concerning, because first of all, they were offered, people signed up for them and they weren't given. We just took it away from them. So the whole thing is really upsetting if this ever happened. And now that it's up there, it does seem misleading. I mean, even as a school person, I would find not so much about the community college, but for high schools, not for it to say what we're doing. I'd like us to be offering all of these, and I never understood why we decided to eliminate any. I don't think we decided. I think somebody else decided to eliminate the business program and these courses. And there may be a good reason. There may be a good reason to update. I love the idea of putting this into strategic plan and looking forward at what other things we need to work on.
Nancy.
Just to follow up on Karen's and Sharon's point, is just maybe a line in the course of studies or program of studies that says, not all courses run each year. Please contact the guidance department for what courses are available.
I believe that's in there already.
So that's, I mean,
Knowing that we're not running all courses, I don't know another school that.
yeah, I mean,
just
not
the
every
studies
school does
after year
offer
starts.
every single course every year, so
Yeah, I didn't see that line.
I would think Nancy's suggestion, if it's covered, that covers it. And for those 4 or 5 or 6 new students in January, when they walk in the door, that's what guidance counselors are hired for.
Right.
They say greetings.
Well, that's what
Oh,
the
by the
board-
way, I looked at
yeah.
your webpage and I want to take
the
Shakespeare
board's
3.
there.
Well, gee, that's not available.
Yeah.
And there's
Any other questions?
there's multiple courses that aren't being run that were in the program of studies right now. And it's not just specifically those business classes, but.
Right, but I have no way of knowing that as a person who's looking at the website.
Well,
I
it's
thought,
open.
in fact, I thought, oh wait, did they reinstate these? They're on the website. They're in the 2015 and 2016 program of studies. Wait.
I would like the public to know, looking at the website, what's offered this year and what's not. Not just the students coming in. So it's really transparent.
I agree, I was about to bring that up, actually, I apologize, I forgot, but for transparency purposes, I think that's a good idea too.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
I think the transparency is important, I meant to mention that earlier.
we can have a there are other items, other classes within the course of study that are also not being taught this year, so.
Right.
But they will be next year. They're offered again next year. So taking them out at this point, I think is an exercise of futility.
But there's no guarantee, at least for these business courses, and I can't speak to the other ones because we haven't discussed them and I haven't been on the board that long, so maybe they were discussed prior to me joining, but there isn't anything that says these are going to be offered in the next school year.
Well, why don't we let our administration work as they proposed in how they're going to come back with a program that benefits the businesses here on the Cape, that prepares our students to walk out into the workforce, and they'll come back to us for next year's course of study.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay?
I just gonna beat the horse one more time. I can understand a program of studies, which is a document which is printed and handed out as a piece of paper would be a major pain in the ass to change every week. But I assume the website is easy to change and it's easy to supplement. Would that not be true? Would it be difficult to have whoever put the wording in the program of studies to modify it to reflect which courses are currently have students enrolled in, or something, or are currently in progress this year, or whatever the phrase would that be a technologically difficult thing? Would there be any harm in doing that?
I don't think it's technologically difficult, it's just time, you know.
Are there more than 20 things that are in the program of studies that are not actually being taught this year? I mean, how many are we talking about? I have no idea. It's an honest question. How many are there altogether?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate?
I'd probably say about 20, 30.
It doesn't seem overly time consuming. I mean, I don't know what the interface is to actually do the website updates, but I wouldn't think so.
Is there any, would there be a
I
reason
suggest
not
we
to do
leave
it?
this in Scott's hands to have a conversation with the person who is our webmaster to make the appropriate changes at the appropriate time. These people are all trying to get ready for a new school year. So for somebody who is working on making sure all the computer systems and Wi-Fi hubs are working properly, to drop what they're doing to go in and change the course of study to say not currently offered, I don't think it's a smart move. I think we need to have them do that once we're up and running for the new school year.
And is that the same person that does both of those things?
Well, it's more complicated than that, because there's sort of, the program of studies involves multiple authors create a document, so, you know, so it's the document that is resting as a PDF up there that needs to get, so it's not all that different than
a handout.
Than the handout, it's just, the
Well, that was my question. How hard would it
the
be?
handout gets adjusted, and then the new PDF gets uploaded. But it's getting the authors to adjust their, you know, their sections.
Let's take this up again in a month or so when everybody's gotten into school. That's a good point, yes.
Any other discussion on this? Thank you, Bill. Good presentation. Next on the agenda is the Cape Cod Collaborative Agreement, which was handed out at our July 8th meeting. Do you want to make any statement, Mr. Woodard?
No, I'm sure everybody's read every single word and studied it carefully and has many notes in the margins, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding those notes in the margins. Hearing none, I suggest we vote to approve the Cape Cod Collaborative Agreement. I'm not making the motion, I'm suggesting that somebody make the motion since I'm on the subcommittee.
Do I hear
Or
a
if
second?
anybody does have any questions, of course, I will answer them.
I'll make the motion that we accept the current collaborative agreement for the coming school year of 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? It passes.
Sorry it takes so long.
For 2014-15 budget transfers.
In your packets, I put a reminder, back in, I think it was in December, we talked about, there was new legislation that we could establish a regional transportation revolving account, so if there was ever money left over at the end of the year, or if the district received additional regional transportation dollars, those funds could be deposited into a revolving account similar to a school choice or a circuit breaker account. That could then be used to offset transportation expenditures in the next fiscal year. Well, in July, the district received all regional school districts received additional regional transportation dollars. And so we ended up receiving $26,297 more than what we had budgeted that we would be receiving for our regional transportation aid. So what we need to do is have the school committee vote to so it's not a budget transfer, it's a transfer of those funds from the regional transportation funds that we received in FY15 and place them in a revolving account, and that to be used to offset any regional transportation expenditures in FY17 when we do the budget.
Which is the number 2 on our action item list? That's what you're.
That's right, that's right. And then there's some information about some of the student activity accounts.
A memo here with the numbers.
There's not a memo.
There isn't anything in our packet.
Is there a revenue number with
No,
the?
they're talking about the transfer numbers.
Oh, if you look on that revenue sheet, and it shows the regional transportation, and that there is we received $26,297 additional dollars in revenues for regional transportation. That's I didn't write up a memo.
Yeah.
So where are we transferring this from?
Right now, it's in the general fund. It comes from the general, right up until the vote. When the money comes in, regional transportation dollars go into our general fund. And last year, the legislature created a new law that said regional schools can then, if you have additional money left over, you could move it into a revolving account out of your general fund and leave it, and then use it to offset the regional transportation expenditures in the following fiscal year.
You had previously voted to create the revolving account.
Yeah. And it's $26,297 that the district received in July.
I'll make a motion. I move that we transfer the amount of $26,297 from the general fund to the previously approved regional transportation revolving account.
Second?
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
A Katie question, minus the 26,000 that we just voted on.
Yeah.
That's subtracted from the net below at 142,306.
Correct.
So there's another number down there, somewhere around 120.
Mm-hmm.
That 120, that's reconciliation money from 214-15. That after we balanced our books, that's what we are sitting on.
Well, those were additional dollars that came in that were over what we had anticipated for revenues. And the biggest one came in with our Medicaid reimbursement for students that are eligible for services through special education, and we received additional dollars for those services that were provided. So that will go into the whole picture of the health of the district when we do our excess and deficiency calculation. So there's a part 2 about the budget transfer pieces of it. When I was here before, I talked about that there are some student activity accounts that we need to do some cleanup on. And I added to your packets some information about some funds. We've had a couple of groups come forward to us and want to take the monies and set up their own accounts. And quite frankly, two of them that I'd like to talk about, we don't necessarily need to vote on tonight, but we should definitely talk about it, should have been in a separate account and really were not properly designated as student activity funds based on where the revenues were coming from. So I talked to our auditors because the district needs, and I had mentioned this to everybody before, and we talked about the policy subcommittee would be working on setting up some new policies around student activities as a result of some work that was done last year from the Department of Revenue and the Department of Ed about this. So we talked about, I inserted in your packet some procedures, you know, in the absence of a policy, some procedures that I would recommend that we follow for any group. For instance, the after prom, parent after prom group, that really is not, the funds are fundraised outside, it's not kids. You have to think of student activity accounts as students, money generated by students for students. And some of the activities are adult-driven that are not student-driven. So one of the things that I believe needs to happen, and I outlined it in 5 steps in your packet, is groups, if somebody comes to us and wants to remove funds that were under the student activity umbrella, the group needs to set up an account on their own, and they need to be registered with the IRS with a tax ID and have bylaws, and officers are elected, so that we're not just saying, you know, Joe Smith wants, you know, money from one of the accounts. And then a vote would have to be taken by the school committee once we had the documentation showing the proper IRS registrations and the bylaws and their officers. And then we would vote to then transfer those funds outside and give the money to these groups to set up, you know, whether they want to set up a friends of kind of group. I would recommend that in the time that it takes people to be getting that in place, that we not deposit any more monies into those accounts, because they really are not student activity funds. So what I provided to you was those 5 steps. I think we certainly can mull this over and take action on it either later or at the next meeting, which is fine. And then I listed a group on another page, a group of accounts that, in going through our audit over the summer, I mean, there are some accounts that have a balance of 63 cents, $8.46, some that haven't had any activity since 2006. It's really just to clean all of that up, and I would make a recommendation that we set up under student activity what I would call a scholarship fund, that the school, the principals would be able to, if we had a student that wasn't able to go to Cuba because they couldn't afford it, maybe we would have a few funds that we could support a student or go on any of the trips that we were saying, and that would be a good use of these monies that have just accumulated little tiny bits that add up to a little bit. And then there were also 2 accounts that there's some money that we have a building use fund that First Night Chatham monies need to go into, and a lost book account. So this is all part of what I had mentioned to you, that we're going to be spending the summer doing some cleanup of this. This is the result of those efforts. And then what I also provided to you that you can review, there were 2 particular groups. There was the football group for the high school, and the after prom were particularly interested in closing out and following these guidelines. And I did an audit, and so I provided you with an Excel spreadsheet printout of the balances that I see for those accounts that we need to move. And there's going to be a few more of these migrations as we're finding, especially accounts that have been stagnant. And what I'll be doing is working with the principals and having a list of every account we have, and they have to, will indicate to me who the advisor is, and if there isn't one, we're going to be looking to see where those funds should go. But it needs to go back, because that's money that was left over from students. So that's that.
I think I was trying to find the right paper when you mentioned this, so I apologize, but these 5 steps, where did these steps come from? How do we
When I
learn that?
talked with our auditor,
From the audit?
yes, so, and if you look, Karen, I handed out, I think a couple of meetings ago, some suggested guidelines for student activities. And these are recommended guidelines that would be policies that the district needs to adopt.
Yeah.
But it takes a while, so I call them procedures in the absence of a policy.
And there, if we adopt them as policies, it's on the recommendation of the auditor, you're saying, that's where they came from. That's all I want to know, is where
Right.
they came from.
Yeah,
Thank
and there's
you.
a whole, the Department of Revenue and the Department of Ed and the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officials, a group that I belong to, this past year has spent, their commitment was really looking at student activity accounts, best practices, recommendations. They have a whole sheet on frequently asked questions, so there's a packet that, it hasn't been looked at, I think, since about 2002. Yeah.
In keeping with our normal practice of not establishing any new procedures at the first meeting in which it's presented,
Exactly.
so you're okay with us not adopting your proposed 5-step program this evening?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
But my understanding also, however, that you would appreciate us approving the transfers of the money that you proposed on the attached pages tonight?
We don't have, no, we could do it all at the next time, and actually, what I would ask is if in my investigative forensic accounting work, if there are even additional ones, there are just these little pockets that we need to, that this list might even grow, but, and I'm wondering if you support the notion of having a quote-unquote, I'm calling it a scholarship fund, I don't wanna call it a miscellaneous fund, because I don't really want it used for miscellaneous purposes, but that's just me. I thought that would be a good use of these monies to put it in so that it would in fact benefit the students. So that's what I would ask, if maybe I could have a little flexibility, add to this next time, but if you agree with the concept.
I like the concept. And just, would you expect to continue to add to it, or once it's done, it's done? You don't expect to find more pockets once you fine-tooth comb your...
Well, then this
Accounting.
also speaks to, yeah. The schools receive from our picture companies, monies as when based on the sales of students, that when they take their pictures, we get a check, like a rebate check. And the recommendation really is that that rebate check should be put in account for this type of a purpose as opposed to other uses. Because it.
Expect to put more at some point into it. It wouldn't, once it gets drained, it wouldn't empty.
And what we could do is establish that if an account for a period of X, 3 years is inactive and has a balance of X, that balance gets put back into the scholarship. So I think it's just, we don't want to get in this predicament again that we have as many accounts as the length of my arm. But this is also one of those kind of residual effects of Howard High School and Chatham High School coming together, each one, as well as the middle schools, each one having their own set of activity accounts and trying to blend them all together. So it's the cleanup. And it's kind of nice getting to this. You think of all the coming together we had to do.
What I'd like to do is give this to the policy committee, and if you could incorporate what was just talked about, that for future accounts, if they have been inactive for X amount of time, that those funds would be transferred into whatever that is, but this really should go to the policy subcommittee to come up with a policy to present to the full committee.
Agreed, and one of the, with the recommendation of the MASBO, there are some suggested policies, which is wonderful when you can look at recommended policies. And my only concern is that we have a couple of groups that are kind of anxious to get their funds, and I know that sometimes policies take a while. So that's why I was wondering if there would be some, if they followed the procedure in absence of a policy. That was just trying to move the process along.
But I think it's also important in case the school committee gets a phone call that we can't just move money out of a student activity account unless there's a 504
Right.
3B out there that we're legitimately moving it into that's connected, that, you know, so that's, you know, we can't just write somebody a check and say, here's, you know, $10,000 for friends of this or that.
Sure.
I have a question and then a comment. The question is, for the student activities, does it go across elementary, middle, and high school, or what?
Well, each school in the district has their own, and typically the elementary schools in the past, because particularly I'll speak to Howard Elementary, field trips always were self-funded. So that would be, so if a teacher was collecting money for a field trip, going to Sturbridge Village, they would deposit the money in a student activity account, and then they could write a check to the bus company or to the you know, Sturbridge Village or whomever. And it's for that, and so the activity is very minimal at the elementary schools, as you can imagine. Middle school, a little bit more, but then the high school, you get into yearbook, and you get into all kinds of, you know, you think about the Appendix B in the back of the teacher's contract and all the different clubs and activities. A lot of those have then funds that are associated with those activities that are going on. And the kids, as you know, as Bill is, they're busy and they're doing a lot of good things out there. So that's.
Thank you. So my comment following what you're saying, Steve, is that at the end of this meeting, if the policy committee can just meet, we can maybe put together times to meet to take up this, and maybe something else.
Yeah, but you might want to look at, to go on the Mass website to see
Yes.
what their offerings are, so.
And I'd be happy to mail the copy of the policies or send them electronically. I'll ask Barbara, who's on the policy committee, and I can certainly get you the information that. Okay.
That's why we have you all seated together.
Okay.
Right.
It's
You're all.
it's everybody but Nancy and Ed has been other person. So that's easy.
Okay. Bus schedule update.
Just real quick, when we were coming up with the agenda, the bus schedules were just coming out. So the bus schedules are posted on the district website. They'll be published in the newspaper. And you know, there's a little note that we have on the website that just is indicating that, you know, that the bus schedule will sort of remain in effect for the first couple weeks until we get feedback from, you know, from the bus company to how the routes are going. Do we need to make any adjustments that, you know, that we're not going to go, you know, keep updating the bus schedule until, you know, we get enough feedback. We also have suggested to parents that they can contact Regina Cape Destination if they feel that there's a stop that should be moved, adjusted, added, and you know, so we'll put out something further to parents in the upcoming weeks if the schedule changes, you know, beyond what is posted. So, you know, inevitably, as soon as it gets posted up there, you start getting the phone calls. It's like, hey, could this be added and that be added? So, you know, so
Metaphorically, like the program of studies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I saw the bus schedule posted online, and all the notes that Scott just mentioned, I saw those as well, and I was like, wow, somebody's on the ball, this is great. So it must have been very recently, because I looked for it previously, but when I reread it, I don't know, the website a couple nights ago.
last Thursday, things went out.
Yeah, it was great, happy to see it.
I think it's really helpful for parents to, and maybe this isn't for you or any of us, but maybe it's for Cape Destinations. Some parents have asked me questions about this, and it addresses that some buses are first on, last off, and some aren't. And if there is a way without breaking confidentiality confidentiality if there's particular kid issues, for parents to understand some reason, because a lot of people, if there's a real reason for it, they don't have an issue with it, but they don't know why they're doing that.
And I can talk to the first on, last off. I think that was one of the things when I first arrived in this district. I think there were some bus runs that, you know, that had done that, and for every parent that's concerned that their child is getting off the bus, or getting on the bus first and off the bus last, you can imagine that there's other parents that are calling, wondering why their child drove by their house 20 minutes ago and isn't arriving back at their house, because the bus, the bus ends up going to the end of the run to go make the run in reverse. So we're getting both calls. A lot of the things changed when we tried to really streamline and shorten bus times. There was maybe the one school committee member in particular who I remember had an agenda for let's shorten the bus route times.
For his grandchildren.
And I think that the challenge is if that bus has to go to the end of its run, run across Harwich before it starts letting the kids off, that bus run starts, what would be a 50-minute run starts to go up over that hour. And we were trying to keep everything, 50 minutes or less. And I think, Cape Destinations, I think, has done a nice job in the last couple of years at trying to go and accommodate the needs of the district. And I think really did an out-of-the-box solution to address other parents' concerns that they were worried about middle school kids and high school kids being on the same buses. And we were able to use the same fleet of buses without adding buses, and have high school runs and middle school runs that have a lot of geography to go and cover.
That's very helpful, just what you said. If anyone happens to be watching.
Yeah, all two people out there.
One of them went to bed.
Any other questions? Now to item number 7, presentation of the strategic plan draft.
Jim, can you flip over to the other one, and Carl, can I get you to drive Vanna? So I think in each of your packets, there's a copy of the strategic plan draft, and I'm going to shoot these down to Tony. There's copies if anybody else wants one. So, I want to try to be brief and not read over the strategic plan that you've had in the packets and that we've seen. I'll preface this with I took the comments, or tried to take the comments from the retreat and incorporate as many of those into this as possible. And I want to emphasize that this is a draft, just as we have incorporated your feedback into this. The intent is to go to each one of the schools in the opening days of the year and sit with the principal and hear from staff at each one of the schools, to have a couple parent forums, and starting tomorrow night, hear from Rotarians and other community groups about that strategy going forward, and where do we want to land. So I decided in true science guy fashion to briefly geek out and sort of put an introductory sort of overlay on this for those who don't know anything about the strategic plan, or where it came from, or why. And I thought that the best way to address this is really to start with Archimedes. And Archimedes, ancient Ancient Greek mathematician, physicist, theorized that with the right lever, he could move the world. And in the case of Monomoy, we don't necessarily want to move the world, but we want to look at what are the right levers that we could use to move this district forward and improve the academic outcomes for students. All right, so, if we take that analogy of Archimedes, which I'm sure he never envisioned anyone wanting to apply it to school improvement, choosing the right levers matters. Because with levers, the key is effort. How much effort do you need to exert to go move the object forward? And also, how much resistance does it take to break the inertia, to move things? And you have to weigh both of those along with the benefits. What do you get if you can move it forward? So in terms of choosing the right levers, there are some things that are just too ambitious. And so one of the things that was part of the conversation from a retreat, I think somebody said, hey, it would be great if we could improve the academics at the elementary school, which is like this big, broad, vague thing. And it's on some level the elephant. And how do we take that and maybe chunk it down into a very targeted, smaller thing that we can move, and look back after 3 to 5 years and say, yes, we made huge progress there. On the other hand, there's some things that maybe we want to say, let's put it on there that just aren't worth moving. It's so easy to move it. And in this case, we have the lesson where the adult's deciding that he will teach his child early lessons in physics. So some things they might not even impact learning and teaching. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want this strategic plan to focus on. Focus on learning and teaching. So as I shared with you at our retreat, that that there was a first strategic plan for the district. So when I landed here, prior in the spring of 2012, there was a group of 50 people that gathered at Chatham Bars Inn, comprised of teachers, administrators, community members, and parents. And you can imagine that over that day-long session, they came up with 5 things. These are these 5 things that they wanted to see Monomoy achieve, and I've listed those there. And it really became a little bit of the footprint of what the district needs to do to regionalize. And for each one of those 5 items, there were specific initiatives that they wanted to see happen under those that were ultimately developed in a work plan. So they moved from these 5 bullets to initiatives that would happen, and then for each of those initiatives, there was an action plan on how to accomplish that. And that's really kind of where a strategic plan goes. You start with the small, and then you kind of work out and develop the action plan to go and be able to leverage movement. So as an administrative team, we opted this summer to dive in and look at strategy and a strategy towards improving learning and teaching within the district. And we'll fully acknowledge, and I'll fully acknowledge this, that there's every administrator in the room for an entire week going through this process, but we all know that we need to move beyond our administrative group and coming up with a strategic plan. So the first was to go and meet with this group in the retreat and get your input, and now to go radiate out and get input of others and keep folding that into a tangible document that we'll bring back here at our last school committee meeting in September. So the key question that that we were asking you at the retreat, which is really the key question that I'd be going to each one of the staff groups and parent groups and community groups is, what lever do you think would most improve student learning and outcomes in Monomoy? And that was this dozen things that, that the school committee came up with that we tried to, to dovetail in there. I thought there were a couple that, that were brought up that we needed to, bump up into the strategic initiative place. There were things that were wordsmithing that we tried to, that we tried to assimilate. But ideally, if we take enough of this feedback, we'll get to a point that, that this initial document morphs into something that reflects the district. And even today, I got an email from Nancy, who I frequently disagree with now, saying, hey, there's, this, the third bullet on the first strategic initiative. She had a different view or a way that she thinks that could be improved. And the more I thought about it, I actually agreed with her. And I think those are, this time, we'll not let it happen again. But I think those, this is very much a document that's that's evolving. So so what I'd like to do is take, if we look at the front page of this document, that this is what we'll move forward to to get feedback on, and then the second page or of the document, or the backside, while these aren't strategic objectives, they're some of the operational actions that you would go through to affect or bring into effect the initiative. So if we kind of flip through.
Can I just stop on that?
Sure.
Something more basic to this. Last time when we met with our brainstorming, the whole thing of the strategic plan had been done by the administration. Then it came up to us. We didn't have much time to look at it all, and it didn't sit well at all, because I had been involved with the Chatham strategic plan a number of years ago that was absolutely fabulous. And they had a number of days where they had people from the towns, a very diverse population, and then this one that you showed up here was supposedly like this. And it wasn't. It was a real dud compared to anything that was really vital from the town. So I looked into this a little bit, and the purview of the school committee is doing the strategic plan. And I didn't know this, but the Boston, I looked up Boston just because it's the biggest place. It says the Boston School Committee is the governing body. For the public schools, the school committee is responsible for defining the vision, mission, and goals of the Boston Public Schools, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really think we need to start this from the community. And the input from the administration is hugely valuable. But to go forward with that as the beginning step, we don't even know what the community wants for the schools here. And so if we did what we've traditionally done before, is gone to the community, parents, teachers, parents and community members, and then teachers, and then community and school committee, I think we'll get something much more broad and representative. I think we have fabulous school administrators here, but no one Sam has been here for a while, but mostly we've got people that are very knowledgeable about other places. And that may be what our community feels. But I'd like to hear, and I think the community wants to really, there's a disconnect since we've become a region with the two towns. And I think in order for us to, gender support from the two towns is to invite not just particular people, but a real representative of people to begin this. It usually takes a year to do this. I mean, you figure out all these things, the process that needs to go, and then you have the big meeting of the community people, and then go forward, and just like you said there, then take those kind of things and develop action items, and usually it's 4 things that people go forward with on the strategic plans, not so many as this. Maybe some of them could be dovetailed, but I just don't want to miss an opportunity like this because we're so new as a school system that there's a huge base in this town. I'm not as sure about Chatham, but they had a smaller base for wanting the regionalization. So I think this is maybe our first real time to go out and make people really feel part of this, rather than we're doing it all here, you have nothing to do with it, just kind of look at what we've done and how do you like it, what's your little feedback on it. So I'd like to see it done in a different way. You know, I don't think that any of this time is wasted on this, because I think that all the time the administrators did that represents a huge, important piece of that. But I just think that, especially now, it's really important to go out before we come in.
Could I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
I don't want to speak out of turn. Sharon, you have some good points. However, I too experienced a couple of years ago the Chatham Bars Inn with 50 or 60 staff members and community members. And that experience, that was all day. Mm-hmm. And I had a similar impression that part of it was really trying to run a goat rodeo. So my sense of what's occurred, and I haven't heard Scott say that he's not going to go out to the community, or how many times he's going to, or just Rotary, or 3 months, and that's all up for grabs. But my metaphor is this. We designed a high school, we hired Mount Vernon, and Dr. Cragen got the staff together. And that expertise resulted in Mount Vernon creating an idea. These leadership folks amount to X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars, regardless of where they're from. They sat for 5 days, far more than I'm retired, and came up with 50 bullets, and that's what I counted here. Far too many is, frankly, I can see how they're going to do it, that generates or captures what a very good school system should strive for, in my opinion. You could change the words. And then after designing that with folks who live it and have been trained, then I would think the leadership team represented by Scott will then go out to the greater community, whether it's Chatham Elementary parents and then middle school parents and the high school parents, then back again and refilter it. And out of that will come, with those parents, I know I would appreciate it if I were a parent, that I'd have a document to look at and say, look this over in a week or 2 or 3, we'll reconvene. And as a parent, have you got any other ideas? Because frankly, it kind of goes back to also the idea of transparency. I'd be thrilled but amazed if there'd be 2 parents out there in this greater district that would be looking at our webpage to see how many of the courses didn't sign up enough. If so, we got to find ourselves a new life, because I don't think that generates. This step that we've taken, I think, is a positive one. And I also think the 3 hours of 3 weeks ago is a good start. And the discussion continues, and maybe we need to stretch it out. But I think to bring the parents in at the stage where I see this headed, I think is very, very appropriate. Because it gives the parents some seeds to move over. Because you had some professionals who dwelled on this because that's their career. So my opinion. So I don't really think we've lost time. I think we've really gained it. And I think working in reverse with parents, I don't know if it would be any better or delayed, but I think what we've got here is a document that I think the parents would like to see and begin to flesh further things out.
I just want to say that Scott's opening statement was, this is a draft, and we will be meeting with, and he named off a bunch of people they're going to meet with. So they are going forward to talk to the parents and talk to the teachers. So it's not just administration. I personally don't feel that everybody has to be under the same roof at the same time to have those conversations, because if you remember when we did that strategic plan, half the room emptied out after we had lunch.
I agree with you on that point. That's why I said it was a dud, because several years earlier, I'd been involved with one in Chatham, that there were people that had never, from reaches of the community, that, you know, that had never been asked anything to be involved with the school. They felt completely separated from anything to do with the kids in the school. And they were asked to send a representative from, you know, various groups and all. And it was magnificent. We spent 2 full days, and we got a real feeling from what the community felt with, like on a lot of things, that we're very narrow focused on just what we're doing in education. And I think our administration is very skilled in that. But our job as the school committee is not to say, fine, we're going to just rubber stamp everything. Our job is to, this is our purview, to set vision, mission, and goals. And that's a collaborative thing, but that's under the school committee purview. And if we're just going to say we're turning that over, we're not doing our job.
And who said we're rubber stamping anything? This is a
Well,
draft.
Right, but
There are more meetings to happen with
it needs
more
to start
input.
with us going out to the community. That's how strategic plans always go.
Okay, you can open your schedule to go out and meet with Scott. Karen?
When we had our last meeting and we talked about the strategic plan, I felt a little behind the 8 ball. I didn't know where we were in the process or what the process was. And we didn't have a lot of time to review it beforehand. So I did take some time beforehand, and we did discuss some things in the meeting, and some of our feedback was incorporated into the document that we're looking at today. Although not all of it, some of it was missed. But because I'm new on the committee and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we do and don't do and who does what and how things like this strategic plan are created, I spent some time online and did some research, and I looked at what other schools have done. And, you know, I looked at Cape Cod Tech, I looked at Nauset, I looked at Plymouth, Bedford, DY, Mattapoisett, Norton, Brockton, Medway, Mendon, Upton, I don't know where that is, but I looked at that one too. It just happened to come up in my search. Milford, Hopkinton, Brookline, and briefly at Boston. And what I found with all of these is that they had a process, and I was going to ask what our process was. I'm not sure that we've defined the process of how to create this strategic plan. But there was a common theme in all of these schools. I didn't look at all the schools in Massachusetts, frankly, that was too many, but the common theme was that they started either with a committee that was called a strategic plan committee that the school committee tasked the community with, and they took representatives from various walks of life from the community. School committee, faculty, administrators, staffs, students, parents, and alumni. So, and community members in general. And they took a couple representatives from each of these areas and had them sit on this strategic planning committee. And then they went through a whole process, and right at the beginning of the process, for example, so right at the beginning of the process, they involved all of these different groups, all of these different stakeholders. And I have to say that when I skimmed through some of these plans, they were brilliant. I mean, they were remarkable. These strategic plans were great. But one of the other things they did was they had roundtable discussions with different segments of the population that I've just mentioned, these different stakeholders, I should say. They designed surveys, so anybody that wanted to give input could give input, and they had them both online, electronic surveys, and they had them paper surveys, so that anyone who wanted to give input from the community, no matter who they were, could give the input. In fact, Brockton, I think, I should read this because it's really incredible. They involved, I think I actually made a note on this. In their process, they involved, I'm not sure where it is, but here we go. There was a 120-day process of gathering information through roundtable discussions and group meetings, not only with teachers and principals, but parents, the mayor, the police and fire chiefs, school committee members, PTO groups, and the state legislative delegation, which I found really interesting. I'm not sure that we need to involve the state legislative delegation, but it was an interesting concept that, Brockton did this. So I thought maybe it made sense to, in the workshop that we're planning on having soon, I believe hopefully in September, that perhaps we could define a process and go through a process and take a lot of time in it. And the more we involve the community and everybody that's involved in this, everybody that has an interest in, educating our children to go on to the next step of life, that if they're involved, they'll be more invested in it, and we have a better chance of achieving our goals and being, successful, perhaps the most successful on the Cape, and further. So that's what I have to say.
Really?
I was just going to say, I'm not suggesting that we necessarily need to change the process, but I too was part of the strategic planning that Sharon's referring to, part of the Chatham schools. And I did not have children yet at that age in school. I was invited because of my position at the church, and I was asked to be part of it, and it was a huge group of people. And I have to say, it was a transformative experience. And it got people who didn't know that much about the school caring about it, and I can't help but think that they spoke about it, they were invested in it, and I think that it showed in the budget. It showed in their approving of the budget. It showed in their support of the school. And I do think that it's very important that we not negate the role that the community plays in this type of thing.
I don't disagree with any of that. But you're also talking about established school systems that have been there decades. And we're trying to transition from the strategic plan that was put together just to bring two school systems together, to one to help start establishing the core curriculums and the process that we use with the students. That I don't disagree that there should be a lot of community input to that, but I truly feel that this process is the beginning step for it, because it is a whole new scenario for us.
I would argue that because this is a document that's going to stand for 3 to 5 years, and we probably should define it, whether it's 3 or 5 at some point, that it's, and the fact that we are a new school district, this is such an opportunity that we should take advantage of it and have the community invested, everybody invested in it. And, if it's reflected in the budget that's voted, by the town meetings, so much the better.
Then I will take names for a strategic plan committee.
All right, here's one.
You have 160 days. You can speak with the superintendent and start the process.
All right there.
All right, that part's done.
Next on the agenda is subcommittees. Any,
How's the strategic committee going on? What's your first report?
Our first report would be thank you for all the work that you've done, administration, on this document, and we'll be looking forward to continuing.
I'm sorry, I can't hear
Oh,
you.
sorry, my voice tends to be low. Brian was just making a comment about our first subcommittee report, and he asked about the strategic plan committee. And I said, the first thing to do is to thank everybody for all the work they had put in so far.
Superintendent's report.
Let's see, I have under here construction update, So construction on lots of different fronts. We tried to address the ghost images outside of the
Thank
the
you.
door. So I think there are no more ghosts out there.
Great.
This was, for those who are, for the two people watching at home on television, this is above the doors out here where the lettering was removed for Chatham Middle School. You could still kind of faintly see the lettering for Chatham Middle School, but Dave Demers went and painted over it, so thank you. We also have a construction project that's currently going on here at the middle school that was part of the capital budget process that we that we built in there. So currently we have a firm, Kelcor Inc., that is transforming what used to be the culinary arts room for Chatham High School into what's going to be a science lab, and we have then the music room that was in that space has moved across the hall into what was the band room, and the band room has moved into what was the fitness center. So there's lots of different movements that are going on. What the fitness center has been transformed. It's carpeted now. Actually, Gordon Napier came in and was painting walls in there, like his old classroom and a trailer behind the middle school in Harwich. And now we have Kelcor that is in there. They should have, by the start of that, they've been in there in the last couple days, just full force, and they should have that room finished in time for the start of school. The only thing that won't be done is there'll be temporary countertops made out of plywood, because the countertops have a 6-week lead on them. But that room is coming along nicely. Also on the construction front at the high school, I've sent a memo to Bill and the athletic director just to emphasize that we need to have our staff stay off of those front lawns while they establish, and they'll take 3 growing seasons to fully establish. There'll also be signed to keep off the grass, and as the Cranberry Festival gets into gear here in the upcoming days, it'll be sort of roped off so that parking won't occur on that lawn. Just so to preempt Ed from asking, we are making sure that that big vast lawn area gets mowed. It has not been mowed to, I think, my satisfaction or Bill's satisfaction. The contractor or the subcontractor that deals with the landscape has been letting it get far higher than I think is healthy to cut the grass, which I think is just delaying how long it's going to take for that field area to get turned over to us. So a big focus of the construction meeting that we had a sort of a sub-meeting today, and that Mike Morrison, our project manager, will be embarking on tomorrow, is to really focus on developing a mowing schedule, ideally a weekly mowing of that in the area out in front of the school. And we'll be leaning heavily on Fontaine Brothers to ensure that happens either by them or through their sub. We have also had, since the last school committee meeting, meetings with the HVAC subcontractor, and I have shared an additional letter with Fontaine Brothers, just expressing my concern with the HVAC system, where it's at, and they're, even as of today, I think almost all the units are running. I think rooftop unit 13 was having some issues today. Art and Engineering they're doing their best to go and get the system fully functional and turned over to us, and it's still, the frustration that motors are burning out at a rate that is faster than what seems reasonable for a year-old school. So there will be an upcoming meeting with all the parties involved with regard to the building project and the HVAC contractors, the architects. We also want to make sure that we get Eversource, the electrical provider, as part of that meeting as well. I met Monday evening with the Harwich Selectmen to discuss signage in front of Harwich Elementary School. We are in the process of also going to the Chatham Selectmen. We have the diagrams going to both building inspectors to make sure that the signs that we would like to put in front of the schools meet building codes in each one of the towns, but we have developed a sign that we'd like to see that's sort of consistent district-wide in front of each of the buildings, that would replace the marquee out here with the tarp over it. So knock on wood, next week when I'm at the Chatham Board of Selectmen, we can get this approved and get the signs created. So Steve Luton, which has been doing a nice job of getting the quotes to make the signs. So as soon as we get the approvals, the signs will get manufactured and put in the ground. In terms of budget timelines for Harwich, in your packet there is a budget warrant timeline for the town of Harwich that has highlighted in yellow the different dates that they have us on there, or intending to have us on their agenda. The first of these happens in roughly a month from now, when we would be providing Harwich a update of our 5-year plan. Katie's in the process of dropping in the new staff, updating the information from the contract that's been ratified, and that will sort of inform that 5-year plan. In addition to this information, at the past Harwich Selectmen's meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion related to a document that has been developed from the Harwich Selectmen that I'd like to convene the budget subcommittee to discuss this sort of document on a threshold that Harwich would like to see us stay under over the next 5 years. I think it would be important if we can meet as a subcommittee prior to our next school committee meeting, and our next school committee meeting publicly discuss that document as the Harwich Selectmen were discussing it at their meeting, so that we're ready going into September 28th, ready to respond as a school committee where this group is in relation to said document. So we'll have that as part of our agenda at our next meeting, but need to get the budget subcommittee together prior to that. Let's see. Then last on my list, schedule of opening day and curriculum nights. Today was the new teacher orientation. September 2nd is the first day for teachers to show up. That's a week from today. The teachers there's a breakfast for the first half hour. You are invited, to come and reconnect with people. Steve and I will have opening remarks at 8:30. And somewhere around noon, we will finish our remarks. No. So teachers will be back in their buildings by 10 o'clock, and they'll have their building-based meetings, and then they'll all be getting ready for the new school year after that. There's a professional workshop professional development teacher workshop day that happens next Thursday. And then we close down Monomoy for a 4-day Labor Day weekend and return on Tuesday with all of our students in hand. And so opening day is September 8th. The curriculum nights, September 24th will be the curriculum night at the high school from 6:30 to 8:30. September 29th will be the curriculum night for Chatham Elementary School. That goes in shifts, so kindergarten, first and second is at 6 o'clock, and grades 3 and 4 are at 7 o'clock. And
What day of
so,
the week is that, sorry?
what's that?
What day of the week is that?
The 29th?
What day of the week?
Tuesday.
29th is Wednesday, I believe. No.
I'll leave it to Terry and his,
I'm getting there.
his agenda.
Tuesday.
I've heard 2 Tuesdays, so I'm guessing.
It's
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Also on September 29th, which is a Tuesday, is the Harwich Elementary curriculum night. Harwich Elementary, because of their size and limitations to parking, does curriculum nights at 2 different evenings. So they have grade 1 and 3 that evening. Grade 1 is from 6 to 7, grade 3 from 7 to 8. September 30th is the middle school curriculum night here from 6:30 to 8:30. And October 1st is the Harwich Elementary curriculum night, part 2. They have kindergarten coming at 5 o'clock, second grade at 6 o'clock, and the 4th graders at 7 o'clock.
What was the date for the middle school?
The 30th. Which would be a Wednesday.
Would that be the day after the 29th?
That would.
Yes, 2 in a row.
Usually.
Yeah.
That's it for my report.
Move to adjourn?
We're going to adjourn to an executive
No, we are
session
not.
pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining units and non-union contracts. Do I have a motion?
Nobody make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We promise to make it brief, very brief.
Set, go.
Second?
Sharon seconded.
Can't second.
Roll call vote.
I reluctantly say aye.
I said aye.
Oh,
Aye.
sorry.
That's okay, sorry.
Reluctantly say aye.
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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We are adjourned. We will not return to public session.
Good night, all. Thanks, Tony.